Part 98. Being a Bug in a Survival Game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 979. After an hour, Sutinyu and the other three were walking on the street. When they saw a new shop on the roadside, they all went in and searched for the items they needed. Only Lemon City looks so big, so hard to find even a bundle of hemp rope or a piece of clothing. After leaving the 10th shop, Fatty couldn't help but complain. Chin-Chi's car will cost more, so the three of them are going to find hemp rope and clothes first. But he never expected that randomly found hemp ropes and clothes wouldn't count at all, they had to be exactly the same as the card designs. Therefore, the three of them visited many shops, but still couldn't find the same hemp rope. Sutinyu's hemp rope consists of colorful thin ropes twisted together. On the market, almost all hemp ropes are of the same color. Even though I found colorful hemp ropes, they were not long enough. Although the fat man's clothes are just a coat, this coat can be worn on both sides. On the surface, it looks the same as an ordinary coat, but the colors on the front and back are different, one brown and one red. Very troublesome. But it's not impossible to find it. However, the current dungeon has a limited time. God knows if it can't be found for a long time, the dungeon will cause trouble again. Chin-Chi had been searching with the two of them for an hour. During this period, he had not looked for his belongings. The fat man felt a little guilty. How about we look for Brother Chin's car first? Maybe the car will be easier to find. It's okay, I came to see you first. Chin-Chi shook his head and refused. There's another grocery store there, let's go check it out. Sutinyu pointed to a shop at the end of the street. There are a few customers here and there, choosing products. At the counter near the door, a middle-aged bald man was reading a newspaper. This must be the store owner. Sutinyu walked over and asked, "Boss, do you have any colorful hemp ropes here? They must be at least 5 meters long." Yes, the boss put down the newspaper, glanced at Sutinyu, and replied. Hearing this, Sutinyu was shocked. Have. Boss, can you take it out and take a look? With the failure experience of the first 10 stores, Sutinyu felt that he had to calm down and not be happy too early. Okay, how many do you need? The boss asked. Just one bundle, 5 meters long. Okay, you wait. The boss agreed, turned around and walked into the small room in the store. The fat man who came in behind heard the conversation and came over. Boss, is there something going on this time? Let's see if it is right first. Sutinyu looked around casually. On the edge of the counter, there is a sign with a person's name written on it. Ji Zingen. Apparently, it's a male name. This is the boss's name. Boss G, I picked out the things at this time. An ant took a few dishes and walked to the counter to look for the boss. Here we come. The boss came out with a bundle of colorful hemp ropes, threw it on the counter, and looked at Sutinyu. Take a look first, is this what you are looking for? After saying that, the boss took out his computer and calculated the money for Auntie's dishes. It's 53 yuan in total, just give me 50. Thank you, Boss G. The ant happily took out the money. The boss rubbed a plastic bag with his hands and put all the dishes in it. Boss G, I'm leaving first. The ant seemed to be a regular customer and her words were very familiar. Sutinyu compared the color of the hemp rope, which was almost the same as the cards, and the length, too, was over 5 meters. Boss, how much does this bundle of hemp rope cost? Sutinyu asked. $10. When he heard the price, the fat man beside him immediately paid for it. After the deal was concluded, Sutinyu's panel popped up. Congratulations, you have successfully obtained the Lemon City specialty, hemp rope. Sutinyu looked over and over several times. They were all ordinary hemp ropes, not any special props. Why does the panel issue this kind of task? Simply let the players run out? The fat man saw that this grocery store also sold some ready-made clothes, so he wanted to give it a try and asked the store owner if he had the tops and jackets he wanted. As a result, there really is. I know a friend who sells this. If you need it, I can take you there, the boss replied. Then I'm sorry to bother you, boss. The boss is a nice guy. He will definitely make a fortune this year, the fat man said with a smile on his face. At this time, the aunt who had already left came back again, her expression still a little pale. Boss G, don't go to Louis Street recently. I just found someone dead there. It's really unlucky. Dead. Sutinyu and the other two looked at each other. Player. Something happened to other players? Okay, I'll pay attention, the boss responded. Auntie, what's going on over there on Louis Street? Sutinyu turned his eyes slightly and stopped Auntie. With lingering fear on her face, the aunt replied, the police over there are now cordoned off. The place of the accident is a small hotel on Louis Street. It is said that the deceased is a foreigner and quite young. Outsider? Still relatively young? Sutinyu turned to look at the other two people. Sutinyu, do you want to go and have a look? Chin-chi, okay, it's better to determine who is eliminated. Fatty, I don't know why they died. Could it be that some players died last night? After the aunt left the store, the boss came out from the counter. Which of you is coming with me? My friend is busy recently, and the store is only open for 2 or 3 hours at a time. The store may be closed now. Also, there are 3 of you, leave one person to help me look at the store, okay? Okay, okay, the fat man nodded repeatedly. Boss, I'll go with you. After saying that, the fat man looked at Sutinyu and the other two. Chin-chi said, I'll stay and look at the store. Sutinyu blinked. Fat man, how about I go with you? Boss, you go to Louis Street first, I'll come find you after I get my coat. The fat man waved his hand. Things on Louis Street are equally important. It would be bad if we were late and missed some important clues. Sutinyu, okay then. After the 3 of them agreed, Chin-chi stayed. Sutinyu went to Louis Street, while Fatty followed the boss to buy the coat he needed. Luoyip Street. When Sutinyu came here, he saw police officers carrying 2 bodies covered in white cloth. The crime scene has been closed to traffic, and a large number of onlookers gathered nearby, pointing and pointing. At the door of the hotel owner was being questioned by the police. At this time, the hotel owner's face was not very good. After all, a murder occurred in his own hotel. You don't need to think about it to know that the hotel's business will become very bleak in the next few months, maybe even a few years. Sutinyu glanced at the hotel owner for a few times, but didn't notice anything unusual, so he looked away. However, the faces of the 2 corpses covered with white cloth could not be seen clearly now. Sutinyu's eyes rolled slightly, and then his fingertips moved slightly. Dehui, go and lift that cloth. Dehui followed Sutinyu's instructions, turned his body transparent, floated over quietly, and then blew a breath into the white cloth. Suddenly, the 2 pieces of white cloth were lifted open. Sutinyu took the opportunity to take a look, and the next second, his face darkened slightly. It's the player. Moreover, that couple of players were all dead. Hey, why is it windy? The police officer next to him saw that the white cloth was lifted, and reached out to press it down. Sutinyu couldn't carefully check the death status and fatal injuries of the dead players. However, just for a moment, Sutinyu saw that the dead player still had a look of horror on his face, as if he had encountered something extremely terrifying. After being blown up by the wind once, the police officers were on guard from behind so that the wind could not succeed again. Finally, the body was taken to the police station in a corpse truck. The other side. Boss, how long will it take for you to arrive? At first, the fat man was chatting enthusiastically with his boss about home affairs. But slowly, Fatty discovered that the more he walked, the more remote he became. "We'll be there soon, right in front." The boss's tone was still neither salty nor bland. The fat man felt that all his enthusiasm was scattered on the cold lake, and even the water vapor could not be stirred up. Slowly, the fat man also shut up and walked honestly. At this time, the boss suddenly said, "Are you curious about what happened on Louis Street?" "It's just, the first time I heard that someone died, I was quite scared and wanted to know what it was," Fatty explained vaguely. The fat man stopped talking, but the boss felt the desire to talk. "Looking at you, you must be from outside. Don't you know that there have been many murder cases in our city recently?" "Really? So scary?" The fat man's face was very shocked, as if he was frightened. "Boss, yes, the murderer can't be found at all." The fat man hurriedly asked, "Boss, since you are a local, will you know more about the situation? Even the police in the city can't investigate, so how can a common man like me know?" "Boss, have you ever thought about moving? Since there have been so many murders here, isn't it very dangerous?" "My roots are here. I won't leave, and I don't want to leave," the boss suddenly said in a serious tone. "Oh, that's it? Since there are so many murders in the city, then my friends and I should leave quickly. Originally, we wanted to enjoy the scenery of this small city, but it seems that we have no vision." There was a hint of regret in the fat man's tone. "Indeed, although the scenery is beautiful, you must have a life to appreciate it." The boss agreed. "We're here." After walking for a few minutes, the boss stopped and pointed to an open clothing store ahead. "It's right there. It looks like it's about to close. We need to get there quickly." Okay. Upon hearing this, the fat man immediately quickened his pace. Seeing that he was about to reach the clothing store only about 10 meters away, the fat man suddenly felt a pain in his heart. He looked down blankly and saw a bloody knife tip coming out of his chest. At this moment, the person standing behind him pulled out the knife without mercy, and then kicked the fat man to the ground. The fat man rolled on the ground several times before he stopped. He raised his head with difficulty, only to see that his boss, who was originally kind and cheerful, now had a cold expression on his face and was holding a bloody knife in his hand. The boss looked at the fat man like he was looking at a prey waiting to be slaughtered, so cold-blooded and callous. You. The fat man's eyes widened, and the severe pain radiating from his body made him pale. "Ha, let's get a good baby in the next life," the boss said in a conspiratorial tone, then raised the knife and chopped off the fat man's entire head. Suddenly, flesh and blood flew everywhere. Blood splattered on a large piece of bluestone pavement. The fat man's breath shrank. The boss saw that the fat man's body stopped twitching, then turned around and was about to leave. "Oh my God. It hurts," Fatty's startled voice sounded behind him. The boss turned his head sharply and immediately saw a scene that seemed like he had seen a ghost. The fat man who was supposed to be decapitated is now alive and kicking. And that body, only left a pool of blood, and a scarecrow with a big slap that appeared at some point. A closer look reveals that the scarecrow's head and body have been separated. "How come you're not dead?" The boss's voice became sharper, full of disbelief. The fat man patted his heart, with a look of relief on his face. It's okay, the stand-in doll is really useful." At this time, there was also a scarecrow-shaped prop in Fatty's inventory, which turned into a ball of ashes and finally disappeared. "Oh, what if you survive? You still have to die again." The boss regained his composure and his tone became gloomy. "Brother Chin." Seeing this posture, the fat man stepped back and shouted loudly. Around the corner, a person walked out. It was Chin Chi, who was supposed to be guarding the grocery store. "Why are you here?" The boss's voice became a little sharp again. "I have closed your store for you," Chin Chi explained in a calm voice. "Boss, if there is any financial loss caused during this period, I can compensate you." Chin Chi paused and then added, "But, my friend, you cannot move. When the fat man heard this, he was moved to tears. The boss's face became even more gloomy. Hypocritical. Pretentious. Don't think I don't know you. You are a social trash who killed your father, mother, and brother. Would you stand up for a mere stranger? Fart. Chin-Chi's eyes were calm. This is talking about the original owner of his identity, not him. And you, the boss pointed at the fat man excitedly, you're a piece of trash who bullied a girl. What qualifications do you have to live in this world? You all deserve to die. They all deserve to die. The boss suddenly went crazy, raised the knife that appeared inexplicably in his hand, and was about to slash at the fat man. Chin-Chi grasped the palm of his hand, and the ancient bronze sword appeared instantly. Before the boss was about to cut Fatty, Chin-Chi stepped in front and blocked it with an ancient bronze sword. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuan-Ke. Chapter 980. No matter how fierce Boss G is, judging from his strength, he is just an ordinary person. At most, he can fight a little better than ordinary people. Seeing Boss G's unyielding expression, Chin-Chi broke the former's hamstring with his sword. Ah! There will be no good end for you all. You will definitely die miserably. Ha 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 ha. Boss G cursed and laughed crazily, and finally stabbed himself in the heart with a knife. You will all die, I'll be waiting for you in hell. For a moment, both of them were unable to react. It is really incomprehensible that Boss G failed to kill and chose to commit suicide. He died. The fat man looked at the boss's corpse with a somewhat indescribable expression. Chin-Chi took out his mobile phone and called Sutingyu. Are you okay there? I'm on my way back. Where are you now? On the other end of the call, Sutingyu was standing in front of Ji Xing'an's shop. I'll send you the location. After Chin-Chi finished speaking, he hung up the phone, and then sent the two people's current location information to Sutingyu. How's it going, boss? The fat man saw Chin-Chi calling Sutingyu, so he asked. We'll find out when she comes. Chin-Chi put away her phone. The fat man turned his eyes and saw the boss's corpse right in front of him. He had a dead-eyed expression on his face, and the more he looked at it, the more panic he felt. The fat man was in trouble. Brother Chin, what should I do with this body? Chin-Chi turned around and looked at the open shop not far away. Drag her over there. Okay, the fat man obeyed. When the two of them entered the store, there was no one inside, and there was a temporarily open sign at the door of the store. Because they had to wait for Sutingyu, the two of them did not go in, lest Sutingyu would not see anyone when he came here. After waiting for a long time, Sutingyu's figure appeared from a corner. Boss, this way. The fat man raised his hand and waved it twice. Sutingyu came over, saw the boss's body, and said, there is indeed something wrong with this boss. Sutingyu and the others had been looking for the items for so long, and suddenly they found two items from Boss G. Anyone who wasn't stupid would know there was something wrong. At that time, although the three of them didn't talk to each other openly, they were all veteran players who had experienced so many dungeons, so they still had the caution they should have. Before they knew exactly what the boss was planning, the three of them chose to use the trick and deliberately stepped into the trap set by the boss. Once you try it, the answer will come out. The boss really had no good intentions. Fat man, have you found your belongings? Sutingyu changed the subject. Not yet, but Boss G said this is the store he's looking for. I wonder if the coat I'm looking for is in there. The fat man pointed to the store. The three of them walked into the store, and Fatty was searching among a pile of clothes. Sutingyu walked towards the counter and saw a sign that was upside down on the table. She stretched out her hand to stand up the sign with three words written on it. Ji Xing'an. Sutingyu blinked his big eyes. Could it be that the shop here also belongs to that Boss G? This seems to be Boss G's shop too. I don't have any friends at all. Sutingyu turned to the two of them. The fat man finally found the piece of clothing he needed among the rows of hangers. There was a price sign on the clothes. After reading the price, the fat man took out the money and put it on the counter. The fat man said happily to the two of them, "Boss, I found it too." Sutinyu pursed her lips, "Fat man, why didn't your panel pop up?" "Huh? It's true. Doesn't it count as completing my mission?" The fat man scratched his head, "But Boss G is dead. Who should I give the money for this dress to be considered mine?" Sutinyu thought for a few seconds and said, "You carry Boss G's body first." "Oh, okay, okay." The fat man put down the clothes on hand, then walked to the door and dragged the body over little by little. Qin-Chi was standing at the door. He could take care of both the two people in the store and the situation outside the store. The fat man followed Sutinyu's instructions and carried the body over. "What next?" "Boss." Sutinyu pointed to the chair inside the counter, "Put the boss on the chair." With that said, Sutinyu erected the standing sign. "Oh, okay." The fat man did as he was told. "Fat man, can you see if the boss has a mobile phone on him?" Yes, but there is a password." "Try using your fingerprint to open the lock," Sutinyu reminded. The fat man did as he was told and pressed the touch keys on the phone with his boss's thumb. The next second, the phone was turned on. You look at the QR code for payment, and then you transfer the money to the boss. Suddenly, Fatty suddenly realized. It can still be like this. So, the fat man did what Sutinyu said. After the electronic sound of the QR code sounded, Fatty's panel also popped up, showing that he had completed the task. "It's really possible," the fat man sighed as he took back the cash that was originally placed on the counter. Then, he picked up the piece of clothing he had bought. "Boss, what are we going to do now? Are we leaving?" Sutinyu blinked his big eyes. "Didn't you notice? We are still in the dungeon." The fat man was confused. "Huh? Didn't it mean that the copy time is not over yet? We are being hunted, but if the boss is the one chasing us, but he is dead now, it should be considered that we have cleared the level early, right? There is no need for the players to stay here anymore." "That's right. Then why does this copy still exist?" When Sutinyu mentioned this, Fatty also thought of this aspect. Is it possible that this boss is not the murderer who wants to kill us? No, when he just saw Brother Chin and me, he yelled at us to beat us and kill us. Two possibilities. The first is that he is not the person who really wants to kill the player according to the dungeon content. The second is that there is not only one person who wants to kill the player. Boss G is just one of them, Qin-Chi added. "Fatty, that makes sense. Then what should we do now?" "Continue to find a place to hide. There are only 3 or 4 hours left, and we will be able to clear the dungeon soon." The fat man looked at Sutinyu on his left and Qin-Chi on his right. "Let's help Kikai find the items he needs first, and then we'll take action again." "Oh, okay." After coming out of the store, Sutinyu and the others continued to look for the third item. Cars are not sold in shops across the city like twine or clothes. In a small city like this, there are only about a dozen car dealerships at most. Sutinyu and the others searched around and found the car Qin-Chi needed. However, the price of this car was the most expensive, and almost all the money exchanged by the three people was spent. But fortunately, there are only the last 3 hours left to clear the dungeon without spending any more money. The food and drink problems of the three of them can be solved with the food in the inventory. For accommodation, the original hotel has already paid for it, and you can still stay for another day. Copy time, 3 o'clock. In a small park, in a pavilion. Sutinyu and the three of them sat on the stone benches in the pavilion, each eating bread. When the time came, Sutinyu arranged the three people's cards on the stone table. The fourth pattern of the 3 cards also appeared. This time, it's information about the killer. Sutinyu's card pattern is 35. Chin-Chi's card pattern is, gender female. Fatty's card pattern is, local. Wow, that murderer is a woman, Fatty exclaimed. Sutinyu reminded, Fat man, I don't know whether this information is true or false, it may be false. That's right, the fat man scratched his head. However, with this little information, even if it is all true, there is no way to determine who the murderer is. It's okay, our dungeon mission this round is not to find the murderer, Chin-Chi said. Yes. Fortunately, it's not a puzzle-solving dungeon. There's no need to find the murderer. It's relatively easy now, Fatty said thankfully. But, if we really find the murderer, it will be considered an overfulfillment of the task, right? I wonder if there are any extra rewards. Sutinyu's eyes were full of curiosity. Ah, extra reward. But until now, there is no movement on the panel, Fatty said. By the way, Fatty, where is Boss G's cell phone? Is it at your place? Sutinyu asked. That's right, it's at my place. Boss, do you need it now? The fat man took out the boss's mobile phone. The mobile phone password has been turned off. Now there is no password and it can be turned on at any time. The fat man thought he was really a clever fat man. Chin-Chi reached out, took the phone handed over by the fat man, and began to check the contents. Assuming that this boss is the murderer's accomplice, then they should have some contact in private. Sutinyu touched his chin and speculated. Yes, he can't attack us for no reason. He must know our identity. Also, the words he said make it seem like he already knows our identity and is a very hateful bad person. So I just want to eliminate harm for the people. The fat man carefully recalled the previous confrontation with the boss, and the boss's words were still vivid in his mind. Combined with the fact that all players have an envelope, and the previous victims are not good people, it can be inferred that the boss is most likely to have some connection with the murderer. In fact, if you think about it carefully, if the murderer is just one person, but he can solve 23 murders in the city, and the police officers can't do anything about him, this seems to be a bit too powerful. If there is a helper, then it will make sense. Chin-Chi, I found it. There is a very strange group on my phone. When the two heard this, they immediately came over. Sutinyu, where? Chin-Kitian opened a strange gray software. As soon as he entered, he saw a group chat. There are only 15 people in this group, and the nickname of this group is also very interesting, called City Lights. Chin-Chi flicked his fingers and flipped through the group's previous chat records. After a while, I saw the identity information of the three of them in the copy, and it also came with their photos. Holy crap, it really does exist. The fat man's eyes widened in surprise. 3 players are known to have been eliminated, and their identity information was thrown into a folder called Resolved. In this folder, there is also identity information for the 23 identities. Now, there are only 5 pieces of information left in the unresolved folder. In addition to Sutinyu and the others, there are 2 other players, Brother Moyu and Brother Wandering. Boss G's recent chat history in this group is: I saw those 3 damn trash, they actually threw themselves into the trap. Don't worry, I won't be impulsive, I will deal with them one by one. Just wait for my good news. After that, the boss never sent another message. Because the person has died. And in the past such a long time, I haven't seen any new messages from the boss, and other people in the group have also started to bubble up. Laoji, how are you doing over there? Did things go well? Need our help? Are you there? I'll get back to you later. Sure enough, is it too difficult for one person to solve 3 problems? Kikai, reply to them and stabilize them first, Sutinyu said. Chin-Chi nodded, and then typed on the keyboard of his mobile phone, I have solved 2 of them, now I am ready to solve the last one. Finally a reply. I thought you were in some kind of trouble. The position of the card is always moving after you killed someone. Did you forget to throw the card on the body? After these words came out, the three of them looked at each other. Card. How do they know where the cards are? I was so excited for a moment that I forgot. There are three of them. I have to deal with them one by one. After one person dies, the other people collect the belongings, so they are all taken away. Qin-Chi typed a few lines without changing his expression. Someone in the group asked, so that's it, did they call the police? No, I told them about the 23 people because they felt guilty. They didn't have the courage to call the police, they just wanted to run away. There was still one left to go. Give me another hour and we can solve it. Qin-Chi sent out messages one after another to stabilize the people in the group, and then began to think about the function of this group. Soon, I discovered that there was a positioning chip inside the card. And everyone in this group can clearly see the positioning information. No wonder someone asked this just now. Fortunately, Qin-Chi reacted quickly and didn't reveal his secret. Now that the fourth pattern has come out, there is no point in continuing to hold this card. How about leaving the cards in Boss G's shop and leaving the forged body there? Sutingyu suggested. Qin-Chi, yes, but we are dead now and cannot walk around casually. This is simple, just make some disguise. We don't know the identities of the other group chat members yet, but we might just run into them on the street. It will be embarrassing then, and I will just show off. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuan-Ke. Chapter 981. So now, there are only the last two left in this batch of garbage. Leave the last two to me, I'm closest to them. And me, I will help you too. Be safe, both of you go. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. After these two garbages are processed, you can start the next batch of garbage. Others in the group chatted animatedly about the good deeds of killing people. In a small park, Sutingyu noticed the plans that popped up from time to time in the group chat. The other two, refer to the other two players. Fatty, are they going to attack the other two players? Do we want to remind them? Sutingyu shook his head. It's a bit far from where those two people are from here, so it's hard to notify them in advance. Moreover, they are already preparing to attack those two players. If we get close to them, they might also be there exposed. Right. Sutingyu said with relief, Fat man, those two players shouldn't be simple. They can survive to this day. You wouldn't believe that they are new players, right? It's just a 4-star dungeon. If one of them is an old player, it won't be a big problem for them to clear the level, Qin-Chi added. The other end. Brother Wanderer and Brother Moyo stood on the side of the road. Brother, where are we going now? You can go anywhere, there is no purpose. Why? Can't we just find a place to hide? There are only the last 3 hours left. Brother Moyo asked back, we were hiding in a rental house before, but we still got approached anyway. Ken. Brother Wandering wanted to say something else, but at this moment, a taxi stopped in front of the two of them. Brother Moyo looked at the license plate and saw that it was the car he booked online. The car is here, get in first. Brother Moyo opened the car door and got in first. Seeing this, Wandering Brother had no choice but to follow in. Driver, take us around as you please, Brother Moyo said to the driver in front of him. No problem, boss. The driver was a middle-aged man. After hearing Brother Moyo's request, he started the car directly. Because they were in the car, it was difficult to communicate directly, so the two took out their mobile phones and communicated through text messages on their mobile phones. Brother, you are thinking that as long as this car keeps driving, the person who wants to kill us will not be able to find our location, right? At this time, Wandering Brother also gradually came to his senses. Brother Moyo replied, yes, as long as we kept escaping in the last 2 hours or so, this round of dungeon would not be cleared easily. Brother, as expected of you, you can think of such a good idea. Brother Wanderer's eyes flashed with admiration. Okay, stop flattering me. You should also be careful. I can't be with you in every round of dungeons. This round of dungeons is just a special case. I know, bro. More than half an hour later. Brother Moyo occasionally looks at the scenery outside the window, just to pass the time. At this time, the taxi reached a section of winding mountain road. No other vehicles or people were seen before and after, obviously they were far away from the city center. Brother Moyo frowned. Driver, this section of road doesn't seem to be part of the planned route, right? Oh, that's it? There's a traffic jam on the original route, so I'll take a detour, the driver explained. Don't worry, boss, the fare is still the same. We're just strolling around, so we'll take a detour, Brother Lu Lang said casually. Wait. Stop the car. Stop the car quickly. Moyo suddenly realized something was wrong, his expression changed, and he shouted at the driver. However, the driver seemed not to hear his words at all and continued to drive on his own. In front of this section of the road is a cliff. There, the railing on the highway was broken. If the car didn't turn or stop, it would definitely fly straight out. When the time comes, the car crashes and everyone is killed. The driver's seat is surrounded by stainless steel bars, so there's no way to grab the steering wheel to control the car. Seeing that the driver did not slow down at all, Brother Moyo made a quick decision, took out an axe from the inventory, and smashed the door next to him hard. In a few moments, a hole was opened. Then, Brother Moyo put an amulet on him and Brother Wanderer, and pushed the latter directly out of the car. Because of the protection of the amulet, the two people did not suffer much injuries after jumping out of the car. Brother, what happened? Is there something wrong with the driver? At this time, Wandering Brother also reacted. Brother Moyo can't do this kind of thing for no reason, so the problem must be that car and that driver. But before Brother Moyo could explain, the taxi that was traveling straight started to turn, then accelerated at full speed, preparing to crash into the two of them. Get out of the way. Boom. The taxi hit Brother Wanderer's body. The amulet affixed to Brother Wanderer's body lost its light in an instant. The whole piece of paper turned into ashes and completely lost its function. Go to hell, trash, the taxi driver stared at the two people on the road and kept cursing. Crazy, all crazy, Brother Moyo put his right hand behind his back and took out something from the inventory. Just when the taxi was about to hit the two of them, Brother Moyo dropped what he was holding. Small particles scattered on the road. When the taxi passed by, an explosion suddenly occurred under the car. With a bang, the whole car turned over. The driver inside the car was blown to pieces and lost consciousness. I'll go, brother, how is he? Don't worry about it, hurry up and leave. When the two were about to run away, the sound of vehicles driving was heard on the highway. Two cars, one in front and one behind, wanted to double-team the two of them. At first glance, it seems that the person who came is not good. Damn, why are you here again? Brother Moyo cursed secretly, and directly picked up the stunned Wandering Brother. What are you doing standing still? Run away. But with two legs, how could he possibly run faster than a car? Soon, two cars completely surrounded the people. You killed the old cat and you still want to run away? Impossible, the people in the car shouted angrily. Brother Moyo opened the panel, his eyes fell on a certain prop on the inventory, and his heart ached. Another prop is wasted. Two cars crashed into the two of them at the same time, and the two could only dodge in embarrassment. At this moment, the sound of cars driving appeared again on the other end of the highway. A black car was inserted between the two cars. The next second, the front and rear car doors opened, and Sutinyu and three others walked out. When they saw the three people clearly, people on both sides were shocked. How is it possible? How is it possible that you are still alive? Wait. Laoji, what did you do to Laoji? The people in the two cars suddenly thought of the key point. At this time, they all wanted to rush over and bite Sutingyu and the other three. He committed suicide, Sutingyu said calmly. Laoji. You social trash. You will not end well. After the people in the car put down their cruel words, they drove away directly. The best opportunity has been missed. Moreover, since they did not have the advantage in numbers, they had no choice but to withdraw first. Thank you. Seeing this scene, Brother Moyo turned to thank the three of them. If Sutingyu and the others hadn't arrived in time, I'm afraid they wouldn't have been able to escape so easily. You guys get in the car first, Sutingyu waved. In the end, the three of them came to see the situation. In the car, the two Moyo brothers remembered that they had taken away the three people's money at the beginning, and for a moment, the atmosphere was a little awkward. Your car is very nice. Is it a rental? Wandering G touched the leather of the car seat enviously. That's right, it's rented, Sutingyu nodded. Brother Moyo asked, what did those two people say about Laoji just now? We also encountered someone who wanted to kill us, and it was their accomplice. The accomplice failed, and when he couldn't escape, he committed suicide, Sutingyu explained. There is a group chat on the accomplice's mobile phone, and all the people in it want to kill us. Group chat? How many people are there? Brother Moyo's face changed slightly. Just a dozen people. Sutingyu thought of something. By the way, where are your cards? Throw them away quickly. The cards have a positioning function. Position. No wonder, their positions were exposed every time. When the two heard this, they quickly took out the cards and threw them out of the window. This card is an item that is available at the beginning of the dungeon. Originally, I thought it was an important clue to clear the level, so I always carried it with me. Unexpectedly, this is also a reminder. By the way, what is your fourth pattern information? Sutingyu asked. My pattern information is 182. Mine is a courier. Brother Moyo looked at Sutingyu. You only asked about the fourth pattern, but not the third one. Did you find any clues? It doesn't hurt to tell you. Anyway, the copy is about to end. The fourth pattern is likely to be the personal information of the mastermind behind it. Personal information of the mastermind behind the scenes. Didn't you just say that there were more than a dozen people in that group chat? Sutingyu nodded, yes, but there must be someone who is the mastermind. After Sutingyu briefly explained some of the situation, he stopped revealing the rest. Brother Moyo wanted to ask more questions, but was fooled by Sutingyu. Now, there are less than 2 hours left before the copy ends. Fatty took Boss G's cell phone and opened the group chat, and the other members in it already knew about Boss G's death. Now the messages in group chats are all curse words and all kinds of threatening language. Fatty, boss, what should I do now? Do I need to throw away this phone? If there is any position, then turn it off and throw it away, Sutingyu said. The fat man did as he was told. Turn off your phone and throw it out the window. Copy time, 4:40. By the time we returned to the center of the city, the sky was already getting dark. There is still more than an hour before the copy ends. When several people entered the city, they were stopped by a police car. Routine inspection. The police officer walking at the front spoke. Chin Chi stopped the car. The police officer sharply noticed that the two Moyo brothers sitting in the back seat were not wearing seat belts, so he asked, "Where are your seat belts?" Brother Moyo looked apologetic. "I'm sorry, comrade, let's tie it up right now. You all, come with me to the station." This, if it's a matter of paying a fine, we can just pay it on the spot. There is no need to go to jail as a good citizen, except for doing business, Fatty has never been in jail. Now subconsciously, he feels a little fear. No, it must be dealt with seriously. The policemen looked serious. They had no choice but to drive to the police station and write down their identity information. The police officer reprimanded, "Next time, don't do it again. It's very dangerous." Yes, yes, we must correct our attitude and we will never do it again next time. Brother Moyo nodded repeatedly. You guys stay for a while, and then you can leave when notified. Okay, okay. After the policeman left, Brother Wanderer took a look at the environment in the office and said, "Actually, it's quite good to stay in the bureau now. At least those murderers can't be so rampant and come to the bureau to kill us, right?" "That's right. Why don't we stay longer? Let's get through the last half hour," the fat man greatly agreed. Thinking about it this way, it is indeed not a bad thing to enter the situation now. When the policeman came back, he was about to say something and say that he could leave. Sutinyu raised his hand. "Comrade, we just encountered a car accident on the winding mountain road. It's really terrible." "Car accident? Why didn't you say anything just now?" The police officer immediately became serious. Sutinyu felt aggrieved. "Aren't we afraid?" However, after our deep introspection, we decided to speak out about this matter in time. "Where is the location?" "It's right on the winding mountain road. In order not to stop your work, comrade, all of us are willing to stay in the police station." "Okay, okay, then don't run around." After receiving the news, the policeman hurriedly ran out. He accidentally bumped into another policeman, who reached out to help him in time. "Xiao Li, what happened? Why are you running so fast?" "Brother Hai, aren't you on vacation? Let's not talk anymore. There was a car accident on the winding mountain road. I have to get there quickly." Brother Hai frowned. "Car accident? Where did you get the news?" "It was said by several people. They are in the lounge." Xiao Li pointed in the direction of the lounge. "Okay, you go take a look first and pay attention to your safety." In the lounge. Seeing that there were only 10 minutes left, everyone gradually relaxed. Just the last 10 minutes. This round of copies is stable. Just as Sutinyu was thinking this, a dark, round thing suddenly flew in from outside the door. It rolled until it reached the corner of the table and then stopped. Sutinyu took a curious look, and the next second, his expression changed drastically. "Holy crap! It's a bomb. Run." As soon as Sutinyu finished speaking, the bomb exploded. The entire lounge trembled, and the window glass was blown out. After the explosion, two slightly glowing protective covers appeared in the smoke and dust in the lounge. At the critical moment, both Fatty and Brother Moyo opened a protective shield-like prop and covered everyone inside. Several people had near misses. At this time, the last 10 minutes of the copy were over. Source of inspiration for the copy, a movie, it seems to be from abroad. I have only read the movie commentary, and I don't remember it very well. The villain escapes his crime, and City Lights appears to punish the villain. If you want to watch this movie, search for City Lights. There should be. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 982. The main mission is completed, the copy has been cleared, and the rewards are being settled. Get experience value 200, game currency 400, lucky draw opportunity *2. Autonomous degree of clearance, 90%, experience gained 180, game currency 90, lucky draw opportunity *1. Contribution for clearance, 85%, experience gained 190, game currency 85, lucky draw opportunity *1. Dungeon exploration degree, 80%, experience gained 400, game currency 160, lucky draw opportunity *1. Settlement completed. Sutinyu glanced at the settlement panel and curled his lips. There is no way, the 4-star ordinary dungeon rewards are too few. The main reason is that there is not enough time for the dungeon. Otherwise, maybe some hidden plots can be uncovered and additional dungeon rewards can be obtained. The last bomber, I don't know who it was so bold and dropped the bomb directly into the police station. I thought it would be safe to stay inside the police station. However, now that they have left the dungeon, there is no way to find out what's wrong. If you can give the dungeon more time, you can search further down this point, and maybe you can catch the city light. Can it even trigger hidden plots? Oh, what a pity. This copy is too short, only 12 hours long. Sutinyu waited for a while. Everything on the panel was normal, and there were no panel notifications that suddenly popped up. A hint of surprise appeared in Sutinyu's eyes. That's not right. This is not normal. What about the daily panel announcement after the instance ends? Why didn't you come out? Is it possible that this copy didn't crash? Ahem, although, Sutinyu also very much hoped that the copy would be safe and there would be no accidents. However, this time, there was no movement at all in the copy. Sutinyu was really not used to it. Could it be that the copy is too short? So you weren't able to crash the dungeon in time? Seeing that nothing happened, Sutinyu had no choice but to withdraw from the settlement space. After coming out of the settlement space, Sutinyu went to find Qin-Chi and Fatty as usual. Regarding the fact that the last few people were almost killed by bombs, Fatty expressed his lingering fear. It was really terrible. If the reaction had been slower, the 4-star dungeon might have failed. No matter how simple the copy is, you can't let down your guard. Qin-Ki-Theo. Boss, brother Qin, where do you think the last bomb came from? Could it be the policeman who went out? Fatty guessed. Sutinyu expressed his thoughts. In that copy, the person who wants us dead so much must be the city light. Maybe, some of them actually work in the police station, which can also explain, why have they committed so many crimes and why can't the police catch them? Because they have internal agents inside, they can reveal the plans and deployment of the police station in advance. Sutinyu analyzed it calmly. As for whether it is the policeman, there is no way to verify it. Anyway, now that we are out, we should not enter that copy again in the future. The probability of the same player entering the same round of dungeons is almost zero. So far, no player has entered the same dungeon world twice in a row. There is no way to calculate how many copy worlds there are. Now, it is already 12 noon. This is the first ordinary dungeon at the beginning of the public beta. Not counting the previous large-scale global school dungeon, now, the time ratio between the dungeon time and the real time is 1:1. The three of them had been in the dungeon for 12 hours, and when they came out, they went from 0 to 12 noon. I don't know if this round of dungeons is an exception, or if it is an ordinary dungeon in the future. The time ratio will be 1:1. Sutinyu, let's go and eat first. The base provided food. In order not to be special, Sutinyu decided to respond to the call of the base. Even if he had food, he would insist on eating in the canteen every day. That's right, boss, I would have forgotten if you didn't tell me. I'm hungry now. The fat man touched his still round belly and smiled. The three of them went to the canteen together and lined up, then ordered food and rice, and finally found a place to sit down and eat. Boss, have you seen it? A new round of event dungeons is coming. This time it is the Mid-Autumn Festival dungeon, which will last for 3 days. While eating, the fat man took the initiative to find a topic to chat with. Huh? Active copy? Let me take a look. Sutinyu took a bite of rice into his mouth and then opened the panel. On the homepage of the panel, slide the promotional poster twice and you will see the countdown to the new round of event copies. The 19th to the 21st? If there is no open beta of the game, then this time period should be when we celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival. Holy shit! This is too much. Sutingyu was very angry and took another big mouthful of rice. Boss, you don't seem to be a student or an office worker, so there's no need to be so angry, the fat man said. What? I will always be a 17-year-old high school student, Sutingyu expressed dissatisfaction. Since there is an event copy, let's participate in this event copy. The time is just right. Our current rest time can wait until the event copy is opened, Sutingyu counted on his fingers. The 4-star ordinary dungeon rewards are too few. I hope this event dungeon can give me some boost. The fat man nodded, yes, I think so too. Then let's learn about the Mid-Autumn Festival in advance. Although the Mid-Autumn Festival is a traditional festival in my country, many people probably haven't paid much attention to the deeper stories and origins. Sutingyu thought that almost everyone was disconnected from the internet now, and there was no way to follow her. Just like before, I could check information online anytime and anywhere. However, the authorities should have already considered and prepared in this regard. Maybe, before the public beta, information on all the festivals on Blue Star will be prepared. Well, I have read the information, and I still remember it. I will tell you when I get back later, the fat man said. Sutingyu's eyes were surprised. Fat man. You can do it? The fat man was modest. Hey, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. The three of them were about to finish their meal and were about to leave when a familiar voice came from behind Sutingyu. Dead fish, you are here, I am about to find you. Sutingyu turned around and saw Siepuyu walking over. Xiaoyu? What's wrong? Sutingyu asked curiously. Ever since she figured out the function of the Black Tower, Siepuyu has been very busy and has no time to look for herself. As a salty fish, Sutingyu could only express his helplessness and continue fishing leisurely. The work position of Siepuyu is different. If Sutingyu wanted to do something, the people above him would have to think twice, for fear of offending this young ant. If Sutingyu gets upset and starts singing, the operation of the entire base will be paralyzed instantly. This kind of thing has been learned before. Therefore, the attitude of the superiors towards Sutingyu was that of letting them go free and turning a blind eye. It was a good thing to be able to help, and if they couldn't help, they wouldn't force it. It's like this. There is a new plan to support new players. Siepuyu found a seat next to him and sat down. Sutingyu asked, support plan? What plan? Siepuyu raised her wrist and glanced at the time on her watch, then I'll keep it short. Actually. Originally, the official considered it because new players had just come into contact with Parallel Paradise and did not know the dungeon rules inside. In the global school opening dungeon, a lot of disappearing people have been caused. In order to avoid more disappearing people, a mutual aid plan has been formulated for old players to support new players. The specific content of the plan is for veteran players to help and guide new players to better adapt to the survival game through voluntary means. Among them, it is divided into 2 stages. The first stage is during the training period. Old players are required to allocate an hour every day to train new players, including but not limited to imparting dungeon experience and telling stories about previous dungeons. The period is 10 days, which is a rest period. Every old player can ask the official for a training fee at the end of the first stage. The second stage is the actual combat stage. Old players and new players team up and enter a dungeon, so that new players can practice effectively in the dungeon. If the new player can pass this round of dungeon, half of the new player's clearance reward will be given to the experienced player. In addition, if all new players can pass the level, the official will also give an additional reward. The weight of this reward is proportional to the number of people who have cleared the level. This plan is quite good, but why did you come to me to talk about this matter? Sutingyu's eyes brightened after listening to most of it. This plan is indeed feasible. Siepuyu did not sell out. It is related to this matter, because this support plan has just been formulated. In order to avoid that no old players are willing to participate, System personnel must take the lead and set an example. Every system member, you must bring 2 to 3 new players to support you. When Sutingyu heard this, he immediately understood. So, I want it now too. Siepweo nodded, yes, that's right, not only you, but your bodyguard also needs it. Qin-Chi's expression paused slightly. Siepweo added, however, when bringing in new players, old players are not allowed to form additional teams. In other words, you have to lead the new players separately, and then form a team again after you have done so. Why can't we form an additional team? Qin-Chi asked. Siepweo glanced at Qin-Chi, I know that your situation is special, but this is an arrangement from above. Because if you form an additional team, everyone must team up with someone who is trustworthy and has good friendships. If you encounter any danger in the dungeon, normal people will choose to help people they know, and those who are just because new players who form a team just because of the support plan may be abandoned. This goes against the official intention of implementing this plan. That's right, Sutingyu nodded in agreement. Seeing that Qin-Chi seemed a little depressed, he quietly reached out from under the table, took Qin-Chi's hand and squeezed it. Qin-Kiwei was stunned for a moment and turned his head. Sutingyu blinked her big eyes at him with a soothing look. After comforting Qin-Chi, Sutingyu turned to look at Siepweo, okay, but there is an event dungeon recently. We need to participate in that event dungeon first, and then bring people with us, okay? Siepweo nodded, okay, you will go through the first phase of training first. After you have participated in the event dungeon, you can go to the next round of dungeons and bring people with you. It will only be done once. Okay, I can bring 2 to 3 people. Sutingyu blinked. Xiaoyu, do you have anyone available? Yes, I have chosen a pair of twin brothers and sisters for you. They are both 14 years old. They are going to be in the 3rd grade of junior high school after school starts in the summer. Both brothers and sisters are top academics and are obedient and sensible in character. Siepweo and Su. After listening to Yu's introduction, he looked at Qin-Chi again. Yours is a middle-aged couple and they are honest people. Is that okay? Qin-Chi nodded, indicating that there was no problem. Actually, your player level is relatively high, so you can bring more, but this is the first time, so it is safer to bring less. Siepweo rubbed the center of his brows. The processing work these days has indeed been overwhelming. I also have to deal with copies. The support plan stipulates that only level 4 players can take orders. Level 4 players can bring 1 to 2 new players at a time. Level 5 players can bring 1 to 3 new players at a time. Players of level 6 and above can bring 1 to 4 new players at a time. There are only about 200,000 players in the closed beta. There are estimated to be only 40,000 to 50,000 internal beta players in China. But there are hundreds of millions of people in China. Even if these tens of thousands of closed beta players were to guide new players, it would still not be enough. You guys eat first, and after you finish eating, the person you want to support will come to you. After Siepweo said this, she stood up and left. Sutingyu turned her head and saw Fatty staring thoughtfully at Siepweo's back. She couldn't help but curiously asked, Fatty, is it possible that you also want to bring new players? Hearing this, the fat man scratched his head, I have this idea, but I'm also afraid that I can't lead it well. However, for the next round of dungeons, both you and Brother Qin will lead the new players, and then I will have to be alone. If you go to match the dungeon, you might as well bring a new player. Sutingyu held her fist and made a come-on gesture, fat man, believe in yourself. Before the internal beta, didn't you enter the dungeon by yourself? You also entered the professional dungeon and got a what's the professional title. Fat people are not weak. The fat man in the past might have had a little water. However, after internal testing, Fatty is now able to stand alone. Coupled with Fatty's European Emperor's luck, as long as the difficulty of the copy is not too high, he can pass it with ease. Okay, Then let me also bring a new player. The fat man showed an embarrassed smile. I can help you as much as I can. The current Blue Star situation is full of chaos and turmoil, but there are also people working together to tide over the difficulties. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 983. After lunch, the three of them first accompanied the fat man to the office of the Support Plan Processing Center and received a support task. The person who was assigned to support Fatty was a male high school student. After receiving it, the three of them returned to the accommodation area and waited for their support recipients to come to their door. After the three of them watched the TV series for half an hour, there was a knock on the door of the room. The fat man quickly went over to open the door, while Sutingyu quickly put away the computer. The fat man opened the door, and there were 5 people standing outside. They were a middle-aged couple and 3 children in their teens. "Hello, we are here to find the teacher who will train us," the middle-aged man said somewhat cautiously. The fat man turned sideways and said with a warm welcome, "Come in first, everyone is inside." "Okay, okay. Thanks." After the 5 people entered the room one after another, they also saw Sutingyu and Qin-Chi in the room. Sutingyu and the others had read their information beforehand, but there were no photos. Sutingyu coughed slightly and said seriously, "Hello. My name is Sutingyu, and my nickname in the game is Angel Su." "Who are you, Cheng Shan and Cheng Xian?" Just as Sutingyu finished asking, a man and a woman who looked similar took 2 steps forward. The boy said, "Hello, Teacher Su, this is us." "Okay, the rest is clear." "2 uncles and aunts, this is Qin-Chi who is helping you train." Sutingyu raised her finger and pointed at Qin-Chi. Qin-Chi nodded slightly, which was like a gesture between the 2 of them. The middle-aged couple smiled back with reserved expressions. The last boy, who was 1 or 2 years older than the brothers and sisters, looked at the fat man next to him with a slightly disappointed look. This is his training teacher. Why does he feel inferior to that Qin-Chi? The next second, the boy began to comfort himself in his heart. It's pretty good, at least, she's not a little girl shorter than him. Let me explain the situation to you. Since the 3 of us know each other, your training will not be separated. You will all train together, okay, Sutingyu suggested. After the words fell, the 5 people began to think individually. This is obviously a guaranteed profit. Originally, they only had 1 training teacher, but now they have 2 more. Although there are more training targets, the number of 5 training targets is not large, and the training teacher should be able to take care of everyone. Right. The middle-aged couple was the first to respond, "We have no problem. We can do it too," the elder brother of the 2 siblings said. "Me too," the boy had no reason to disagree. Originally, when he came in, he wanted Qin-Chi, who seemed the most reliable, to be his training teacher. Sutingyu struck with both palms, with a spring breeze on his face. "Okay, now let's talk about the training time. When will you be free? Just use the time that all of you can spare to carry out these 10 days. Training." So, the 5 people discussed with each other again. Finally, the training time was set at 2 to 3 p.m. every day. But it's still 10 minutes before 2 o'clock, so we'll train in advance. The 5 people had no objection. They were the first batch of people to participate in the training program, and they also had the mentality of giving it a try. Apart from sharing half of the rewards after passing the level, they had nothing to lose anyway. If they can successfully pass the level after training, it will be too late for the 5 of them to be happy. After all, no one wants to die in a copy. Next, both parties briefly introduced themselves. Middle-aged couple, Uncle Luo and Aunt Luo. 2 brothers and sisters, Cheng Shan and Cheng Xian. Male high school student Zheng Cheng. Today's training officially begins. Qin-Chi talked little, and Fatty was too embarrassed to give instructions in front of the 2 of them, so Sutingyu was the one to host the training. Sutingyu didn't mind either, and started hosting the show happily. When entering a survival game, first of all, you must determine what type of dungeon it is. Dungeons with 5 stars or below will have game prompts. You should pay attention to this. After the integration of big data, common game types include survival, escape, puzzle solving, and natural disasters. However, many dungeons have more than one attribute. You have also experienced 2 rounds of dungeons, so they should all have more or less characteristics. Understand it? On the forum, there is a lot of information left by old players. You can go check it out and spend a few hours sorting out useful information. Okay, teacher. The 5 people nodded. Sutingyu continued, also, I want to remind you of a few things in the dungeon. 1. Don't trust any players. 2. Don't underestimate any NPC in the dungeon. 3. Don't let your guard down until the last second of the copy time. 4. Keep enough game currency for failed payments and daily consumption. The rest can be used to cash in, buy props, and arm yourself. Don't be reluctant to use it. So listen to Yu's talk for a while and went to drink water to soothe her throat. Qin-Chi and Fatty also added some of their own opinions. During the training on the second day, Sutingyu shared his dungeon experience with the 5 training subjects by telling stories. Only. Sutingyu's dungeon experience was a little different. Cheng Xian, the youngest among the training subjects, asked in confusion, Teacher Su, are there really so many props in the dungeon that I can get? Sutingyu nodded calmly, of course. As she said this, she also wanted to show off her stone monument residence and little broken flowers. Then, he was stopped by Qin-Chi. Part of your experience is not universal, Qin-Chi said helplessly. Then he looked at the 5 people, his expression still cold. You also remember that the dungeon experience we mentioned is suitable for us. You can learn from it, but don't try it blindly. Yes, teacher. Cheng Xian nodded. Afterwards, Qin-Chi naturally replaced Sutingyu. Sometimes, the name of the dungeon will reflect what kind of test this round of dungeon will bring to the players, such as Ice and Fire, Trapped Beast, and Dusk Escape. Among these dungeon names, the first is probably related to natural disasters, the second is related to escape and transformation, and the third is escape. Qin-Chi didn't tell them about dungeons that were too difficult, because they had just participated in the game and had not yet accessed dungeons that were very difficult. The most recent Dusk Escape dungeon is only a 4-star dungeon, which is better than the previous one. It can be used as material for a competition and presented to them for analysis. Not to be outdone, Sutingyu added. At the beginning of the game, I got the above information, please tell me your judgment. Sutingyu revealed part of the plot of Escape at Dusk to them, and then tested them by setting questions. Each of the 5 people expressed their opinions, and then Sutingyu gave instructions based on their opinions. When Su got tired of listening to Yu's talk, it was Qin-Chi and Fatty's turn. On the 3rd day of training, Qin-Chi told the 5 people about the weaknesses of some human body parts and asked them to learn some self-defense skills, because in the dungeon, sometimes other players are also a danger. On the 4th day of training, Fatty shared with the 5 people some of the props he had obtained and seen. Among them, most of them are defensive life-saving props. Not only did they explain the specific uses of these props, but they also recommended that the 5 people buy some useful props based on the game currency they already have. After the 5th day of training, Sutingyu instantly collapsed on the bed after the 5 people left. It's too difficult and tiring to teach people. The fat man closed the door and felt a little distressed. There are still 5 days left, what will we teach next? In fact, no matter how much dungeon experience and skills you have, you can find them all by searching on the forum, and the official has also specially posted a lot of useful information on it. Qin-Chi, Haida hasn't said anything yet. Hearing this, Sutingyu's eyes lit up, This is okay. The sound of the TV series came out again. It was Fatty who started showing TV series. Seeing that the TV series was on again, Lucifer took advantage of Sutinyu not paying attention, secretly wore an invisible hat, and came out invisible to follow the show. After being discovered by Sutinyu, Lucifer did not panic at all and continued to watch. What can Sutinyu do? I can only help cover it up. After watching a few episodes of the show, Sutinyu rubbed his eyes, stopped watching, and opened the panel. After opening the panel, Sutinyu saw a red dot on the message and clicked on it. It turned out to be Shan Yu's news. Sutinyu clicked on it and took a look. Susu, I have been coming to see you in the past few days. Sutinyu immediately replied. Sister, you want to come here, that would be great. 2 minutes later, Shan Yu sent a message. I'm ready to go, but I still have to deal with some things here, and I'll probably go there in a few days. Sutinyu, okay, I'll wait for you to come. After closing the chat box, Sutinyu felt a little confused. I don't know what Shan Yu is busy with. Xiaozu has to take care of his own villagers. And Shan Yu doesn't seem to have any family. No, Sutinyu remembered that Shan Yu seemed to have an adoptive father. Outside the base. In a cold house. A father and son, wearing thick clothes, gathered around the oven, their bodies shivering. Liang Zihao said in a resentful tone, most of my hard work has been lost because of this crappy game. Liang Zihao has been in this state since the beginning of the game. He has experienced ups and downs for most of his life, but this time it is obviously beyond his understanding. When the Great Ice Age first came, and now the game dominates everyone, his subordinates or servants at home ran away one by one. He just ran away and ran away with the supplies at home. Opposite him was Liang Wenchao, his face also very impatient. Okay, father, just wait for a few days and wait until the base is freed up, then we can go over. Yes, go to the base. There seems to be free food supply there. These days, the father and son have eaten up the food reserves at home, all by going through 2 rounds of dungeons and getting some game currency, which can be exchanged for supplies. But just the charcoal required for an oven has already consumed a lot of game coins. The little bit of food left in exchange was not enough to satisfy them, so the 2 of them were now very hungry. Is there anyone? Is there anyone? At this time, Liang Zihao seemed to be hallucinating, because he heard someone outside. So, he turned to look at Liang Wenchao, wanting to confirm, son, is there someone shouting outside? Liang Wenchao listened carefully twice and stood up excitedly. However, because he stood up suddenly, his head was a little dizzy and he almost fell down. Yes, father, there is someone outside. It should be someone from the base. Let's go out and take a look. The window had been sealed, and the 2 father and son finally opened the door a little, and saw there must be about a dozen people outside the door, all of them with glowing faces and wearing thick cotton padded jackets to protect them from wind and cold. At first glance, it seems that there is no shortage of supplies. However, this does not look like a regular employee in the base. In an instant, the mood of the 2 father and son suddenly hit rock bottom. Although they are not regular personnel, they are still human beings. Now, the 2 father and son have no supplies on them, and they are dying. Even if people outside want to grab supplies, they can't grab anything. So Liang Zihao boldly called people, this way, this way. There is someone here. When people outside heard the noise, they rushed over here. Who are you? The leading man looked at the 2 father and son. Your names and gameids. Seeing that this man's accent was not local, the 2 father and son, who were afraid of meeting some enemies, secretly breathed a sigh of relief. However, to be on the safe side, they only revealed that their surname was Liang. The surname is Liang. The men looked at each other. You two, come with us. After saying that, the man threw a piece of bread to the father and son respectively. After the two took it, they couldn't wait to open the package and ate it directly. Thanks, thanks. I will definitely repay you in the future. After receiving the benefits, the two father and son followed the group of people and went to a community where there was obviously a lot of supplies. When they entered a room, they immediately felt the long-lost warmth. It turns out that the entire room has floor heating. On the tea table, there are also some fruits. In the past, the two father and son would not have paid attention to these at all, but now that supplies are scarce, these fruits are extremely rare. Liang Zihao quietly swallowed his saliva, then turned around and found that the man who had brought the two people here was guarding the door and opened the panel, as if he was sending a message to someone. Brother, you brought us here. Liang Zihao wanted to find out. I asked him to bring you here. Inside the house, a door opened and Shan Yu walked out. The two father and son's eyes widened instantly. Shan Yu. Why are you here? Shan Yu sat on the sofa, reached out and picked up a grape, threw it into his mouth casually, chewed it for a few times, swallowed it, and continued to pick up a snow pear to eat. The fruits that the father and son had not eaten for a long time fell into Shan Yu's mouth one by one. Finally, Liang Zihao couldn't help it anymore. Can you let us eat some too? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuan-Ke. Chapter 984. Want to eat? Shan Yu asked knowingly. Liang Zihao nodded, but still maintained the false smile on his face. There are so many fruits here. Is it not too much for me to help you try some as a father? Shan Yu laughed twice, and then immediately changed his face. It's not too much, but I just don't want to give it. Liang Zihao suddenly changed his expression and asked, what do you mean? Don't forget, we are all a family, and a family should help each other. Shan Yu curled his lips, his eyes full of disgust. Who is your family? Liang Zihao, you won't forget our original deal, right? Hearing this, Liang Zihao's expression suddenly changed several times, and his original arrogance also inexplicably dissipated a bit. Liang Wenchao, who was watching the two of them playing riddles, couldn't help himself when he heard Shan Yu's arrogant tone. Shan Yu, don't forget. It's our Liang family who supports you. Liang Wenchao looked at Shan Yu with dissatisfaction in his eyes. If you give us some fruit, it's a sign of respect for you. Don't be ungrateful. Hearing this, Shan Yu's eyes widened in surprise. Liang Wenchao, I haven't seen you for a while, but you have become more confident again. Liang Wenchao frowned. What do you mean? Shan Yu shrugged. Literally, Puxinan. You. Shan Yu slowly stood up from the sofa and walked into the two father and son step by step. Shan Yu ignored Liang Wenchao, who knew nothing, but looked at Liang Zihao. How did you come to power? How did your opponent step down? You have forgotten it, right? Liang Zihao's expression changed. Shan Yu saw this and chuckled. I don't mind helping you remember it either. Liang Zihao, I respect you as an adoptive father on the surface, but do you really think of yourself as my father? I told you back then that this was just a fair deal between us. You provided me with a new identity, and then I provided you with the major black material and evidence that would defeat your opponent. If this game hadn't happened, you should still be enjoying your previous results comfortably now, right? Shan Yu's face was full of regret, but his slightly rising tone showed a bit of lightness. I don't really feel sorry for Liang Zihao at all. Shan Yu, over the years, I think I've treated you well. Liang Zihao tried to play the emotional card again. Shan Yu was unmoved. Oh, isn't this what it should be? Father, let's go. This makes no sense to her. As soon as Liang Wenchao turned around, he saw that the men who had sent them here had already guarded the door, as if they would not let them out. Shan Yu, what do you want? Liang Wenchao asked. Stay here, I don't have time to act with you. Shan Yu waved his hand in disgust. She had never taken Liang Wenchao seriously, but the latter seemed to be in the late stage of delusional disorder. He always thought that she would miss the little bit of property of the Liang family, or even when she passed by him sometimes, she thought she was seducing him. Haha, he didn't even take a look in the mirror to see if his sharp mouth and monkey cheeks matched his appearance. It's so ordinary and confident. Liang Zihao finally sensed Shan Yu's unkindness. These are your people. Why did you ask them to bring us here? Just to talk about these old stories? Of course not. As for me, I want to settle a new account with you. Shan Yu chuckled. Liang Zihao frowned. He really couldn't figure out where he offended Shan Yu. What new account? At the beginning, the second transaction condition I told you was that those dirty transactions must be completely eliminated. Do you have it? It's really disgusting to act sanctimoniously as a hero and a good guy while secretly taking over. Shan Yu was too lazy to continue arguing with the two of them and went straight to the point. After being mentioned about this, Liang Zihao finally understood. Father, what did she say? Liang Wenchao, who was kept in the dark, asked. Is this all you want to do? Settlement with me. Liang Zihao ignored Liang Wenchao and asked Shan Yu. Shan Yu's eyes gradually lost the smile. Liang Zihao, you should know what I hate the most. After saying that, Shan Yu turned his head and looked at the people guarding the door. Thank you very much, I still need to trouble you now. You're welcome, Miss Shan Yu. Please feel free to give me your orders, the leading man said in a polite tone. These people are all Xing's people, and they are also the people Shan Yu borrowed from Chi Bubi. Shan Yu stretched out his hand and nodded at the two father and son. It was a bit casual, but the words he blurted out seemed vicious: tear them naked, tie them up, and throw them outside for 6 hours. You dare? You are committing murder. When the two father and son heard this, they immediately panicked. It's freezing and snowy outside right now. Even if you're wearing a thick cotton coat, you can still feel the cold, let alone staying outside naked for several hours. This will definitely kill you. 6 hours, very short, Shan Yu said without a trace of guilt in his eyes. Compared to many living lives that are worse off than dead for several years, you are lucky now. If you survive, I will let you go. Drag him out. Okay, Miss Shan Yu. The two father and son were stuffed with rags by a dozen strong men, stripped of their coats, tied up at the hands and feet, and thrown directly into the ice and snow. Shan Yu was still eating fruit by himself, very leisurely. Are you happy now? A voice came from behind. A woman with a veil on her face came forward. Yes, I'm very happy, Shan Yu nodded, but it wasn't too obvious on his face. Now in this game, there is a dream repair agent. As long as you work hard to get game coins, you will. Du Jiwei hesitated to speak. Shan Yu turned around and smiled at her. I know, I heard that this dream repair agent is quite magical. I guess your face can also be repaired. My face. Du Jiwei unconsciously touched the left side of his face. Even through the gauze, he could feel the pitted scars on his fingertips. Du Jiwei bit his lower lip. You'd better care about yourself first. You know, you are. Shan Yu stretched his body and said with a nonchalant look on his face, what am I? People who don't like me are being dealt with now. I can't be any better. But you don't have to be lifeless every day, right? Isn't there hope now? Du Jiwei turned her head, her lowered hand silently raised her fist, and then released it. Finally, she turned around and went back, leaving only one sentence. Don't ruin my brother's feelings. Shan Yu looked at her leaving back, slowly lowered his head, his eyes fell on his heart, and murmured, my heart. It was really difficult to deal with. Shan Yu finished the plate of fruit, then went into the bathroom to wash the remaining fruit stains on his hands. After washing, Shan Yu looked up and looked at himself in the mirror. A smile just appeared on his lips, but his expression changed in the next second. He lowered his head and retched into the wash basin. Ugh, cough cough cough. L. A few bright blood flowers dripped into the smooth wash basin, and soon turned into bloody ribbons and flowed into the drainage hole. When Gucci regained consciousness, he found himself lying on a very unfamiliar bed. As soon as Gucci stood up, his pupils shrank in shock the next second. Why? Became smaller. Gucci looked at his hands, which had become several times smaller, and then looked down at his current body. He felt like a 2 or 3-year-old child. What exactly is going on? And, where is this? Gucci shook his head, and his memory slowly returned. The head of the house came back, and then, the head of the house asked him to follow him, and then, he appeared here as soon as he opened his eyes. Etc. Where is the head of the family? The child on the bed used his hands and feet to kick away the quilt covering himself, pulled the edge of the bed with his little hand, and looked down. After visually measuring the distance between the bedboard and the ground, the child jumped directly. Gucci looked at the layout of this room. Whether it was furniture or doors and windows, they were all of a very antique design. On the Blue Star side, I am afraid that only some ancient buildings or tourist attractions can be seen. Where are you? This question came to Gucci's mind again. Before he could start walking toward the door was pushed open from the outside. Because it was too sudden, Gucci didn't even have a chance to dodge. But when he saw the person coming in clearly, he breathed a sigh of relief. The person who came in was Guyan. Master of the house, Gucci called softly. Guyan saw that Gucci had woken up and walked over. You're awake, how do you feel? Gucci looked at his smaller body and asked, Master, what am I doing now? When Guyan saw Gu Kijhan's bare feet on the cold stone slab, he picked him up directly. The ground is cold, Guyan explained lightly after putting him back on the bed. Gucci was a little overwhelmed by this sudden concern and sat on the edge of the bed honestly, with his 2 little hands on his knees. The child said softly, looking very well behaved. Let me briefly tell you about the current situation. Guyan squatted down, took out a pair of children's cloth shoes from the inventory, and helped Gucci put them on with his own hands. Master, I can do it by myself. Gucci was a little flattered. Why does the head of the family feel a little weird after returning? But I can't say what's strange about it. Guyan ignored Gu Kitty's little awkwardness and continued to talk to himself. This is no longer Blue Star. You can understand it as another parallel world. Gucci wrinkled his face. Parallel world. Yes, you should be able to guess that the copy world in the parallel paradise is actually the product of other parallel worlds. A copy world is created through a certain key item, and the worldview in that copy world, they are all formulated based on the logic of the original parallel world. Gucci continued to ask, Master, are those professional dungeons really parallel worlds? After putting on the person's shoes, Guyan took the person off the bed and asked, what do you think? Professional dungeons give me very different feelings from ordinary dungeons, Gucci replied. Now that you know, why do you ask? Guyan didn't say it clearly, but he confirmed Gucci's guess. Gucci now has another question, Master, why have I become smaller now? Generally speaking, parallel worlds cannot interfere with each other. However, there are some heterogeneous spaces that can be connected between parallel worlds. Through those heterogeneous spaces, you can travel to other parallel worlds. Parallel paradise is a formal channel connecting parallel worlds. Now I have brought you to another parallel world. It is not through the regular channels of the parallel paradise. It is considered a stowaway. Therefore, if you want to hide your identity, I will make you smaller for the time being, Guyan explained with rare patience. Guyan opened the door, and behind him, Gu raised his head and looked outside. His pupils slowly dilated, and a hint of surprise appeared in his eyes. All I saw outside were antique pavilions, rock eyries, flowing water, and lingering clouds and mist, as if I was in a fairyland. Master, this. Follow me. Guyan walked out first. Oh, okay. Gucci came back to his senses, then took his short legs and crossed the high threshold. Gucci followed Guyan slowly. Looking at his current appearance, he is only about 2 or 3 years old, and his walking is somewhat awkward. Guyan had been walking in front, and one step was equivalent to 2 or 3 steps that Gucci took now, so Gucci had no choice but to work hard to keep up. After turning a corner, Guyan turned around and found that Gucci had not followed in time. Guyan looked slightly startled. Xiaju should have learned to walk normally when he was 2 or 3 years old, right? Guyan had never seen Gucci before he was 5 years old, and he had a moment of selfishness when choosing which age group to make Gucci younger to. Gucci's body has become smaller now. Although his memory is still there, his physical fitness and all aspects have truly returned to the state he was when he was 2 or 3 years old. Even if you know how to walk normally, your body can't keep up with your brain's reactions. Family, Patriarch Gucci noticed that Guyan was looking at him, looking a little embarrassed, so he wanted to divert the latter's attention. Principal, where are we going now? Guyan didn't answer. He squatted down and waited patiently for Gucci to come over. Then he opened his hands and said, "Come here, I will carry you away." Gucci blinked slowly and reacted, his eyes a little flustered. "No, no. No, no, Patriarch, don't bother me, I can go." Guyan's eyes darkened slightly. "Don't waste time." Yes, yes. Gucci shivered in his heart. The suppression from his elders forced him to approach obediently. Guyan picked up the awkward child in front of him. The moment he picked him up, Guyan felt the child put his arms around his neck in a panic, but after a few seconds, he nervously let go of his hands, trying to keep the distance. "Family, the head of the family." The child's anxious voice sounded. "Hold tight," Guyan whispered. "Well." The child rested his head gently on his shoulder, very obediently, motionless. Guyan hugged the person with one hand and continued on his way. I finally wrote about the plot of Guju and his father getting along. At this point, all aspects of Guju's character have basically been revealed. To strangers, Guju is cold and arrogant, with the arrogance and venomous tongue of an aristocratic young master. For friends, Guju will silently keep them in his protective circle. Under the cold appearance, he has a very gentle heart. Guju was eager to be close to his father, but also feared him like a god. My understanding of Guju, he has no goal of living for himself, he just longs to be needed. Whether it's Big Fish Kikai or his own father, he longs to be needed before he feels alive. Maybe you guys will have a different understanding of Guju, but this is the Guju in my mind. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 985. Because he was hugged by Guyan, Gucci's field of vision became wider. Here, it is like being in a deep mountain with clouds and mist, with palaces and houses located along the mountain. Gucci asked, "Master, what kind of parallel world is here?" Guyan, if we follow Blue Star's understanding, this is the world of immortality. Hearing this, Gucci was slightly stunned. Cultivation to immortality. Although there may have been some speculation in my mind, I was still a little surprised when it was confirmed. "Do you feel uncomfortable in your eyes?" Guyan suddenly asked. "Huh? Eyes?" At this time, Gucci suddenly realized that he didn't seem to be wearing sunglasses to block light. "I have helped you put on contact lenses that can block light. You don't have to reach out to cover them, and you don't have to reach out to rub your eyes," Guyan explained. "Okay, Patriarch." Gucci blinked lightly, and there was indeed no feeling of any foreign object. No wonder, when he woke up, he didn't notice anything wrong. Guyan said, "One more thing, your panel and inventory are temporarily unavailable." "Okay," Master Gu nodded. At the end of the corridor, a long-haired man wearing a grey robe was standing guard with a sword. After seeing the two of them, he cupped his hands and said, "Fellow Daoist Gu, please come this way." Guyan didn't have any surprises and continued walking inside with the man. Gucci quietly glanced at the owner's side face. In the end, he didn't ask any more questions. He adjusted himself into a comfortable position and leaned quietly on the latter's shoulder. In a quiet and elegant palace, a white-haired old man also wearing a grey robe sat on the main seat, making tea leisurely. Gucci glanced at it twice and guessed in his mind, "Is this the person the family is looking for?" "You're here, sit down." The white-haired old man pointed to the chair beside him. Immediately, his eyes fell on Gucci, and his voice was kind and kind. "This is the child of fellow Taoist Gu. He was born very cute." Well, yes, when Gu Kaize heard the family head admitting his identity, he couldn't hold back and quietly raised his head and glanced at the latter's profile. Guyan put Gucci on the ground. "This is the child. Please help me look at his eyes to see if he can recover as before." "I." Gucci looked stunned for a moment. "Did the owner of the family go to all the trouble to bring him here to treat his eyes?" "Okay," the white-haired old man responded and waved to Gucci. "Kid, come closer." Gucci turned to look at Guyan and asked silently. Guyan raised his hand, helped Gucci take off his contact lenses, and then motioned for him to come over. Gucci approached the white-haired old man. "His eyes are afraid of light," Guyan said. So, the white-haired old man waved his sleeves, and the entire sky was covered with dark clouds, cutting off most of the light. The white-haired old man raised his right hand and gently placed his palm on Gucci's eyes. Gucci subconsciously retreated, but when he thought of Guyan, he stopped abruptly. After a while, the white-haired old man spoke. "The child's eye injury has been a bit long, but he is still confident of recovery. It's just that the recovery process will take some time, and there may be a little trouble." The moment he came into contact with Gucci, the white-haired old man saw Gucci's true age. However, the white-haired old man was not surprised, because in the world of cultivating immortals, he was only in his 20s and could indeed be regarded as a child. "As long as it can recover, by the way, will the recovery process be painful?" Guyan asked. "Of course it won't. Even if it hurts, I have medicine here that can block the pain. However, during the recovery period, the child cannot see for the time being." Guyan's expression softened. "It's nothing, let's start treatment as soon as possible." "Good." After a few words, the two settled on it. Gucci returned to Guyan, looking a little dazed. "Eyes, can they be restored?" Just when Gucci was distracted, a big hand touched his head. He looked up blankly and saw Guyan, whose eyes were slightly soft. "Go, I'm outside." "Child, follow me into the inner hall." The white-haired old man stood up and waved to Gucci. Gucci looked at Guyan, and then left with the white-haired old man. 3 hours later, the white-haired old man walked out holding Gucci, who had fallen asleep. Guyan reached out to take the person and looked at Gucci's condition. Although he didn't wake up, his complexion was still rosy and healthy, so there shouldn't be any major problems. Guyan asked, "How is he?" Tula fell asleep, and the treatment process went smoothly. In the next few months, his eyes will no longer be able to receive any light, and he will not be able to see anything. The white-haired old man explained some precautions after the treatment. Explained it to Guyan carefully. The palm of his right hand was upward, slightly spread out, and a white blindfold appeared out of thin air. The white-haired old man moved his fingertips slightly, and the covering cloth floated over Gucci's eyes, then automatically covered it and tied a knot. Every 10 days, Let him soak in the King's Inn spring on the back mountain for half an hour. This is a medicine list for warming and tonic. Just take this token and go directly to the Yamashita medicine hall to grab it. The white-haired old man handed Guyan another prescription and an engraved token. Okay, thank you, Guyan thanked the white-haired old man. The white-haired old man waved his hand. This is a favor I owe you, as it should be. There's one more thing I'd like to ask you to help me with. It's also about this child. Guyan lowered his head and glanced at Gucci and said. Speaking. Guyan briefly explained those things. After listening, the white-haired old man fell silent and thought for a long time before speaking. When I was treating this child, I also took a look at the child's physical condition. The secret method you mentioned to change the bloodline does not exist. Hearing this, Guyan's eyes turned cold. He was really tampered with. No, the white-haired old man shook his head and said. Have you ever thought about it? What if it's not the child's problem? No. He was taken away for several years. I don't know what went wrong in the middle. He is also the most likely to be tampered with. Guyan denied it subconsciously. But, except for this child, no one else can do anything about it, the white-haired old man asked. Guyan, what do you want to say? The white-haired old man, is there a possibility? There is something wrong with your wife. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Guyan couldn't accept that his beloved wife had been tampered with. But is it really impossible? When the white-haired old man proposed this idea, it had already taken root in Guyan's mind. Is it really impossible? That woman, she was able to steal the child from back then under her nose, and she also planned all this. And back then, when his wife gave birth, he was not with her. At that time, maybe, the woman really did something to his wife? The white-haired old man sighed. Maybe you should find out the reason from your wife. It's not impossible to think in another direction. This child is of the same bloodline as you. There is no doubt that I have checked it, but he is not of the same bloodline as your wife. If you insist that he is the child born to you and your wife, then there must be something wrong with one of the two, either the child or your wife. Okay, I understand, thank you. Guyan suppressed the anger in his heart and thanked the white-haired old man again. I'm leaving now, I won't disturb you anymore. If you have any questions, you can come to me at any time. Guyan walked out of the hall. At this time, the dark clouds in the sky had already dispersed. Guyan hugged Gucci all the way back to the room, placed the latter on the bed and covered him with a quilt. Although it was difficult for Guyan to accept what the white-haired old man said, after calming down, it also provided Gucci with a new idea. Perhaps, the direction in which I thought at the beginning was wrong. But Guyan's eyes fell on the face of the sleeping child on the bed again. If Xiaju is really Ian's child, can he still tell the truth? He knew very well how much Xiaju hated the woman named Chu. The things that woman did to Xiaoju back then were based on her reputation as Xiaoju's biological mother. Even so, Xiaoju found it difficult to accept it after he became sensible, and even, almost went crazy several times. If Xiaoju knew that that woman was not his biological mother, but just a stranger with no relationship or blood relationship, Guyan couldn't imagine whether Xiaoju would be able to bear it when the time came. And Ian? On Ian's side, if she knew that the child she hated and was hostile to was the biological child she had longed for, she would feel so guilty and self-blame. For a moment, Guyan fell into a dilemma. Although it has not been completely confirmed, at this time, he seems to have the answer in his heart. That woman's world seems to be called Yin-Yang Star. Guyan thought about it in his heart. After a while, you might as well visit that woman's world. That woman is too cunning and can't be caught for a while, but it's best not to leave any connections and influence behind, and it's best not to be discovered by him. He must make that person pay a heavy price. When Gucci woke up, he found that his eyes were completely dark, and his eyes seemed to be covered with a soft white cloth. When he subconsciously wanted to tear it off, his small hand was held by another big hand. "It's me." Gucci felt relieved when he heard the familiar voice of the owner of the house. The darkness for a moment really made him feel a little at a loss. "Master, I am. The treatment went well, but you have to wear a blindfold during this period and don't pull it off casually." The child nodded obediently. "Okay, I understand, head of the family." The head of the house, the head of the house. Hearing Gucci call out these two words in a polite manner, Guyan couldn't help but feel a little dull on his face. However, these two words were also what he asked Gucci to call him. At first, he had vented his anger on Chu Xinyu on Gucci, and in order to stabilize Yan's mood, he ordered Gucci not to say the word father anymore. Gucci also obeyed obediently. Now Guyan is very regretful and annoyed. However, after all, there is no way to put this trouble into words. "Until your eyes fully recover, I will live with you to prevent you from accidentally injuring your eyes again and wasting this opportunity for treatment." "Yes, head of the family." Guyan reached out and gently picked up the little guy on the bed, and asked in a warm voice, "Are you hungry? I'll take you to eat some special food from the world of cultivating immortals." "I'm not hungry." Just as Gucci was about to say something, the next second he felt a hand touching his stomach through the fabric of his clothes. He is in the arms of the master of the house, so the answer is self-evident as to whose hand it is. Niancy, who was only half a child now, had a slight blush on his cheeks, but Guyan didn't see it. "My stomach is flat. It's because I didn't think carefully. I'll take you to dinner now." Guyan felt that the child in his arms twisted a little, as if he had accidentally broken away from his hand. From an angle that Guyan couldn't see, the tip of the child's ears slowly turned pink. "The head of the family, you must be caring about him. Could it be that the head of the family doesn't hate him so much now?" In the next few days, Guyan took care of Gucci as the white-haired old man said. At first, Gucci felt a little uncomfortable. After all, he is no longer a real ignorant child, so there is no need for the head of the family to arrange everything for him. However, whenever Gu wanted to bring himself up, he couldn't hear the voice of the head of the family. Then, he felt an invisible sense of intimidation, and then, he silently shut up. 5 months later. Someday, the white-haired old man came and removed Gucci's blindfold. "Xiaju, try opening your eyes." Gucci heard the owner's voice, so he slowly opened his eyes. A pair of beautiful and round cat pupils are as clear as rare gems, and there seem to be little stars shining in them. "Child, do you feel your eyes hurt? Maybe you feel uncomfortable somewhere," the white-haired old man asked. Gucci tilted his head and scanned the hall. The sunshine outside came in, but Gucci didn't feel the dazzling pain that he had felt in the past few years. "It doesn't hurt." Gucci shook his head. Guyan came closer. Gucci looked up and pursed the corners of his mouth slightly. "Master, I can see. I can see the light." "See the light without any obstruction?" "Yes." Guyan breathed a sigh of relief. He raised his hand and touched Gucci's head, feeling very happy. The white-haired old man looked at Guyan. "Stay a few more days to make sure the child is really recovered." "Okay." Guyan nodded. He looked at Gucci again, picked him up and said, "I'll take you outside for a walk." "Well, master, I can walk by myself." The child was confused for a moment, but in the end, he chose to be picked up by Guyan obediently. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 986. Sutingyu opened his eyes, and before he had time to check the contents of the copy, he found that he was freely falling to the ground in mid-air. There was a constant whooshing strong wind blowing in my ears. Just when it was about to hit the ground, Black wings sprouted from Sotingu's back. With a flap of its wings, Sotingu stabilized its landing just a few meters above the ground. Finally, Sotingu landed on a green leaf as big as a small bed, retracted his wings, and began to check the contents of this round of copies. Copy, Mid-Autumn Festival Reunion. Background: you are just an ordinary member of thousands of families on the occasion of the Mid-Autumn Festival Reunion. You were abducted by a giant who fell from the sky and was forced to become an insignificant servant in the giant's garden. You are always thinking about how to escape from the giant. From the clutches of my family, I returned to my hometown and spent a perfect Mid-Autumn Festival with my family. Number of players, 815,815. Mainline rules. 1. Mooncakes must be made strictly according to the mooncake recipes of Giant Kitchen. 2. The tools and materials for making mooncakes are in the giant's kitchen and the giant's garden respectively. Do not alert the giant. Once alerted, the giant will be more vigilant. If it occurs more than 3 times, the giant will kill all players. 3 players who eat mooncakes for the first time will have the power to leave the giant garden within 20 minutes. Please pay attention to allocating time. 4. Don't try to challenge or anger giants. 5. For more hidden rules of the game, players are welcome to dig out by themselves. Main mission: complete the production of mooncakes within the specified time and successfully escape from the giant island. Difficulty: 6 stars. Duration: 3 days. Pass-through rewards: after clearing the level, you can get a certain amount of game currency, a probability of getting game props and lottery opportunities, and a probability of getting free attribute points. Death penalty: 2 to 5 non-binding game items are randomly dropped at the point of death, and some game coins and experience points are lost. Penalty for failure: 2,000 game coins deducted. Giant's garden. Sotingu turned around and looked around at the situation. The next second, Sotingu was shocked by the sight of the giant garden in front of him. As far as the eye can see, all kinds of strange and rare grasses are like weeds everywhere in the wild, growing wildly in every corner of the garden. Basically, they are all very bright in color and pretty in appearance. Sotingu was like an insignificant little ant in it. Any piece of grass would be much taller than her. Sotingu reached out and touched the leaf under her butt. The feeling was a real leaf, but its size was extraordinary. Suddenly, Sotingu's panel popped up again. Props: cold fragrance dew grass. Grade: diamond. Function: one of the main materials for making soothing and evil-repelling perfume. Whether the copy can be brought out: no. Usage: disposable. Note: it's broken, it's about to be broken, it's about to be crushed, Sotingu almost couldn't help but jump up. This, diamond grade material. Sotingu looked up and saw a small green grass. It was unimaginable that it was made of diamond grade material. You must know that the average price range of diamond game items in the mall is 1,000 to 8,000 game coins, and they are commonly used props for a large number of middle-level players, etc. Sotingu suddenly discovered a blind spot. If this ordinary grass is already made of diamond material, then, all the flowers and plants in the giant garden in front of you. Sotingu couldn't hold back, and began to use his little paws on the nearby flowers and plants. Diamond grade. Diamonds again. Damn. Rare and rare. Oh my god. A bunch of rare things. It's been released. Hey bronze grass. What kind of rubbish? Do you deserve to stay here? Holy shit. Blue mystery. Sotingu felt that he was going crazy. The entire garden was almost full of very useful materials, and there were several of them. The names looked familiar to Sotingu. In the mall, a plant would cost tens of thousands of game coins to buy. And here, there are countless. Wait a moment. Sotingu calmed down a little from the ecstasy. However, the panel showed that the copy could not be brought out. How to fix this? Sutinyu almost bit the little hand. There were so many treasures scattered all over the floor, within easy reach. If they couldn't take them all back, Sutinyu's heart wouldn't be able to bear such a heavy blow. No. Sutinyu suddenly looked determined. For the safety of your own life. For the sake of Blue Star, humanity can no longer bear the pain of losing a comrade. In order to plan a reasonable planting area for the giant garden. In order to free these cute little flowers and grasses from the crowded land and embrace the free air. As a little fairy, I must stand up. Find a way to solve this problem. The ring should fit in. But the ring also has space limitations. It's a pity that there are no materials to upgrade the ring. Otherwise, it can be upgraded on the spot to expand the space of the ring. This is the giant's garden. If I gain the friendship or recognition of the giant, I should be able to take away some of the gifts between friends, right? Sutinyu's brain was running rapidly, not letting go of any possibility. There are so many precious materials here. If you can take them all, you can not only upgrade the props, or fuse various powerful props, but you can also leave some of them and hand them over to the above, so that you can get some benefits from the above. For example, there are storage cards that archive precious human spiritual foods such as various domestic and foreign movies, TV series, and animations. Anyway, Sutinyu believed that some people in the Great Celestial Dynasty must have had enough time to preserve it. After all, this is also one of human culture. When the time comes, use these precious materials in exchange, he. Sutinyu became excited all of a sudden. She couldn't wait to clear out the entire giant's garden. No, she was kind and considerate in removing some flowers and plants from the garden to reduce the giant's burden and leave some space for them. More garden space. However, this giant's garden looks quite big. It's only 3 days of dungeon time, so I don't know how much it can be moved. Moreover, it seems a bit laborious for her to do it alone. But soon, Sutinyu thought of a good idea. Sutinyu opened the inventory and summoned all the hundreds of small broken flowers inside. The little broken flowers landed on the ground and were instantly attracted by the countless delicious foods in front of them. If it weren't for Sutinyu's restraint, he would have rushed out and ate a lot. Sutinyu said, "You are responsible for collecting all the materials. I will give you 20% of the final quantity collected." Woohoo! The little Kenhua suddenly became excited. Sutinyu thought about it. If he couldn't take too much, then he could digest it directly in the dungeon. They were also plants. If the little broken flowers ate these flowers and plants, they should also be upgraded, just like the big gray ones. As high difficulty dungeons appear more and more frequently, the little broken flowers born in low-star dungeons are gradually unable to help. After the small residual flowers were consumed internally, 108 small residual flowers remained. If Sutinyu had to spend a lot of resources to upgrade all 108 small residual flowers to a level where they could continue to help, it would be a waste of time and money, and not cost-effective at all. And now, give me a pillow if you doze off. This round of event dungeons appeared in a hurry. Many precious plants in the giant garden do not belong to Sutinyu yet. Even if the little residual flowers eat more, Sutinyu does not feel distressed and feels that he has made a profit. Tisk, 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 it seems that the copy is still as considerate, generous, and righteous as ever. Looking at the good things in the garden, the little broken flowers burst into tears. For the first time ever, they feel like they are with the right owner. Little Kenhua, whoever dares to say that my master is not a human but a dog in the future, I will fight with him. Little Kenhua, master, I love you just like a mouse loves rice. Little Kenhua, I knew that our master was the most invincible and the best man in the world in heaven and on earth. Sutinyu gave the order, and the little broken flowers excitedly shuttled among the plants in the garden. Then, he began to search for those plants in a despicable way. Because some little broken flowers might not be able to bear the current temptation of delicious food, Sotignu relaxed his requirements a little and allowed the little broken flowers to eat while searching. However, the materials for making mooncakes are also here, and we can't just let the little broken flowers eat them all, so Sotignu made a restriction. The same plants and flowers can only be eaten twice. If you eat more than twice, you cannot eat them and you can only choose another plant. In this way, it not only ensures the happiness of little Kanhua, but also does not delay the next task. Alas, she is really an ordinary little genius. The little broken flowers brought in plants that they thought had good taste. Sotignu roughly appraised them and found that they were basically diamonds and above, and put them all into the storage ring. Later, a few small broken flowers found a mouse nest. The plants in the giant's garden have grown in size, and the small animals and insects in it have also grown in size. The dozen rats in front of Sotignu were as big as a small car in the real world. After the size was enlarged, the originally not very cute mouse became even more ugly and ferocious, and the sound it made was also extremely unpleasant and harsh. However, these mice didn't have any special abilities. Just looking at them, Sotignu could kill them all in one fell swoop with a few sticks. Sotignu entered the mouse nest and found that the space inside was quite large, almost as big as a 5-story building in the real world. Sotignu had a mission and could not collect materials with Xiao Kanhua all the time. Now that the mice are gone, this is just the right place to put the collected materials, and Sotignu only needs to come here every once in a while. However, the strength of the little residual flowers here is not very high. If they encounter some small animals and insects, they may not be able to defeat them, so Sotignu also kept Dehui. As long as he doesn't get beaten up, Dehui should be able to handle it. The giant garden was too big, so Sotignu took out a bicycle and rode on. In this round of dungeons, there are more than 800,000 players who are all trying to make mooncakes. Not to mention how easy it is to find the materials for mooncakes, it is not clear whether there are enough tools in the giant kitchen to make so many mooncakes. And making mooncakes. Sotignu was a little confused. She can't. Although before entering the dungeon, all major bases did use broadcasts to broadcast knowledge about the Mid-Autumn Festival in a loop, including how to make mooncakes. But there is a type of people who know the principles is one thing, but whether they have the ability to do it is another. No matter what, let's find the giant kitchen first. With so many players, there must be someone who can do it, right? Moreover, you can also contact the scene players. After a while, Sotignu finally saw a bit of color belonging to the building in the giant garden, which was full of flowers and plants. But before Sotignu could get closer, the ground suddenly trembled. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. It was like some kind of sleeping giant suddenly came to life. Sotignu couldn't even ride a bicycle steadily. Ah! The next second, there were waves of deep roars. Damn you villain, where's my lunch? My lunch isn't ready yet. Damn it! A bunch of lazy villains. Inside the building, a giant appeared, stamping his feet and roaring in anger. Sotignu stared at the giant blankly. Because it was a little far away from the ground, Sotignu could only see the upper body of the giant, which was somewhat similar to the dress of primitive people, with unknown huge animal skins as clothes, unknown sharp animal teeth as decorations, and a messy brown slightly curly hair. With several colorful stripes protruding from his face, like the whiskers of a tabby cat. Other than that, he looks almost like a normal person, with 2 eyes, 2 ears, a nose, and a mouth. Is this the giant? Sotignu visually measured the giant's height, and estimated that it was 200 to 300 meters high. The place where the giant lived was a Western-style castle with gold tiles and white bricks. The highest point was almost 1,000 meters above the ground. At this time, the giant who had just woken up was angry because he had not seen his food. The little players in the castle were hiding in the corner shivering, unable to resist the giant at all. Even a cannonball hitting a giant is like a child's toy water gun hitting an adult's trousers, without any threat at all. But if there is too much moisture and the trousers are wet, it may arouse the giant's resentment and anger, and the gain outweighs the loss. After the giant vented his anger, some NPC villains in the castle finally delivered the food. It is a huge barrel, dozens of meters high, with a cart underneath, and it requires the combined efforts of hundreds of little people to push it. The huge wooden barrel is filled with food that giants like to eat. When the giant saw the food coming, he stopped venting his anger, grabbed the food in the bucket with one hand, and ate it with big mouthfuls. There is a lot of food in the barrel, including bread, fruits, fragrant barbecue, and wine. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a Bug in a Survival Game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 987. In less than 3 minutes, a bucket full of food went into the giant's belly. After the giant finished eating, he tossed the empty bucket away, and then the servants pushed in 2 more buckets of food one after another. Immediately afterwards, the giant began to eat voraciously again. After eating 6 buckets of food in a row, the giant burped slowly, and his face became visibly better. The giant, who had eaten and drank enough, shouted, "Little bastard!" Soon, a big bird with golden feathers flew over. The big bird is the size of a small mountain, and it can crush dozens of humans to death with just a lift of its claws. But when that big bird landed on the shoulders of a giant, it felt very minuscule. "Dear Master Davarisu, what are your orders?" The big golden bird spoke human language, and the expression on its face was also lifelike. The giant's 2 thick nostrils spurted white heat waves one after another, and said, "I want to go out, please take care of home." "As you command, my dear master," the golden bird replied, and in the next second, it flew away from the giant's shoulder. Then, the banging sound started again. "It's a giant walking." He entered the castle. After a while, the giant carried a backpack and walked out of the giant garden. Gradually, the figure disappeared bit by bit. After the giant left, the big golden bird changed its humble and flattering appearance in front of the giant. It looked at the humans on the ground and ordered in the worst tone, "You humble reptiles, why don't you hurry up and get back to your work? Do you want to be angry with my dear master?" Upon hearing this, the little people on the ground immediately started their busy work. However, the big golden bird remained unyielding and immediately swooped down when it saw something unpleasant. In less than 10 seconds, a human grabbed the golden bird's claws and started playing with it. "Ah!" the human screamed in horror. After playing with it for a while, the big golden bird threw the human on its talons into the air. Then, he opened his big mouth and swallowed it directly like the human being, as if swallowing a small insect. Although this process caused panic among the other servants, no one wanted to resist. "Because I really can't resist." The size of the golden bird alone is no longer something they can resist. What's more, behind the golden bird, there is an even bigger giant. Sutinyu saw that the giant had left, so he took out the invisible hat and put it on his head. Then, he quietly slipped into the castle. Entering the castle, Sutinyu opened her mouth in surprise. The space inside is really huge. It would probably be very difficult if you just relied on your own 2 legs to walk. The bicycle will make sounds and cannot be made invisible. Sutinyu spread his wings behind his back, flew into the air, and then began to look for the giant kitchen in the castle. There are many human beings in the castle. They are as small as little ants in this huge castle. Everyone performs their own duties and works diligently to take care of this huge castle for the giant. The 6 empty buckets that were left after the giant had eaten all the food were also pushed back by the servants. Seeing this, Sutingyu followed and successfully found the location of the giant's kitchen. At this time, the kitchen is also in full swing. Those enlarged versions of kitchen utensils required dozens of servants to work together to lift them for use. Where is the recipe for the mooncakes? Sutingyu observed from mid-air in the kitchen. With so many servants, there should be a dedicated chef here. The recipes in the giant's kitchen may have been kept by the head chef. Sutingyu looked around for a while and finally found the person who seemed to be the chef. Hurry up, hurry up. The barbecue is ready, turn it over quickly. Where's the seasoning team? Spread the seasoning quickly. An old man with a white beard, holding a big loudspeaker tremblingly, stood above the cabinet and gave instructions. Next to him, there was a book more than 10 meters long spread out. Sutingyu took a closer look. Is the recipe? Next to the cookbook were two servants, turning the pages according to the chef's orders. Sutingyu had no chance to get close. Seeing this, Sutingyu could only wait silently for the opportunity. As long as the people nearby are gone, she can check the mooncake ingredients and making methods in the recipe. Sutingyu waited for more than half an hour. After several portions of food were prepared, the head chef went to taste the food himself. He also passed by with the two servants. As for the recipes, there are no servants to look after them. Seeing such a good opportunity, Sutingyu immediately took action. Mooncake, 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 where are you? Where are you? Fortunately, this recipe had a table of contents. Sutingyu first turned to the front table of contents, found the page number of the mooncake recipe there, and then, according to the page number, turned to the mooncake side. Sutingyu took out a small camera and took pictures of all the mooncake recipes on this page. Finally, I opened the recipe and returned it to the original page. After doing this, the head chef came back and continued to direct other servants to make food. After getting the mooncake recipe, Sutingyu felt a little relieved. As she relaxed, the smell of various delicacies in the kitchen penetrated her nose one after another, like an irritating little goblin, seducing her. It smells so good, it makes me hungry. Sutingyu's eyes were bright. There is so much food here, so if she takes it away, no one will notice, right? Thinking of this, Sutingyu took advantage of his invisible status and used a knife to cut off some food scraps openly. Then, put it in a plastic bag and put it in the storage ring. After doing this, Sutingyu left the giant kitchen with satisfaction. After leaving the castle, Sutingyu had time to look at the mooncake recipes carefully. The records on the mooncake recipe are almost the same as the method of making ordinary mooncakes in the real world, except that several new ingredients are added. These new ingredients can be found in the giant garden. As for the remaining ordinary ingredients, there are some in the giant's kitchen, some in Sutingyu's storage ring, and various pots and pans. However, Sutingyu had to find a chef first, a chef who could make mooncakes. Sutingyu took out the communicator and started to make contact. It would be best to be able to contact Qin-Chi and Fatty. 10 minutes later, Sutingyu successfully contacted Qin-Chi and Fatty. What? Are you on another giant island? Sutingyu was shocked and depressed when he got the news. It turns out that there is more than one giant island in the sky. Fatty, yes, boss, how are you doing there? Sutingyu, it's okay here. I have found the ingredients list for making mooncakes. I just need a chef and those new ingredients. Come on, boss. The fat man on the other end obviously thought of Sutingyu, a black hole in the kitchen, who didn't know how to make mooncakes or anything like that. At least Qin-Chi got it right after doing it a few times, but Sutingyu couldn't hold out any hope at all. Sutingyu was also very depressed. I'll just find a chef. Since they were not on the same island, Sutingyu couldn't ask them for help. After learning that both of them were safe, Sutingyu hung up the call. Then, start to contact other criminal members. Fortunately, hard work paid off, and Sutingyu really found a criminal member who could make mooncakes. That criminal member happened to work in the castle. Without permission, the servants in the castle cannot go out casually. Sutingyu's job was to take care of the flowers and plants in the garden. Ms. Su, I can provide the utensils for making mooncakes and other raw ingredients here, and you can look for new ingredients over there, okay? Sutingyu, okay. The original intention was to find a companion who could make mooncakes, and there was nothing wrong with this division of labor. Sutingyu naturally agreed. Therefore, the two agreed to wait until Sutingyu collected all the new ingredients before contacting him. Afterwards, Sutingyu took a small kettle and returned to his job. Sutingyu's job is quite simple, that is, watering the flowers and plants. I stopped and walked along the way, watering the flowers and plants from time to time, and checking to see if there were any ingredients for making mooncakes. The water in this small kettle seems to be inexhaustible. Sutingyu has been watering it for a long time, but it is still able to produce water. It is quite magical. Sutingyu returned to the rat's nest. In just a short period of time, all kinds of flowers and plants have been piled up in the mouse nest, and most of the space is filled. Seeing Sutingyu coming, the little Kenhuas greeted him enthusiastically. Not bad, keep up the good work. Sutingyu verbally praised the little flowers. Sutingyu began to pick and choose, leaving all the flowers below the diamond to the little broken flowers for them to eat. Then, Sutingyu waved his hand and put all the flowers and plants in the mouse nest into the storage ring. Suddenly, the mouse nest was swept away. Sutingyu patted the nearest little broken flower and said, "Go and call all the other little flowers over. I have something to say." The buds of the little broken flower swayed up and down quickly, as if nodding, and then took off their little girl and ran away. Sutingyu checked around the mouse nest and found that the flowers and plants here were not harmed by the small residual flowers. It still retains its original appearance. It seems that the little broken flowers also understand the principle of rabbits don't eat grass beside their nests. Soon, other small residual flowers and big gray came back. Sutingyu developed the photos in the camera, and developed several photos at once. They are all pictures of the key ingredients. Sutingyu handed the photos to Dawei. "You should focus on finding these first." "Okay, Master, I promise to complete the mission," Dawei was the first to say. "Did you encounter any difficulties when you just collected flowers and plants?" Sutingyu asked. "Master, ordinary flowers and plants are fine, but there are some very fragrant flowers and plants that are occupied by other animals and insects. We may not be able to defeat some of them, so we can only let them go temporarily." Dawei changed the topic. "However, I have written down the specific location. If you are interested, Master, I can take you there now." When Sutingyu heard that animals that even Dawei said he might not be able to defeat were guarding some flowers and plants, he immediately became interested. However, now it's still about tasks. "I made the mooncakes first, and then I will plan the giant garden carefully. Then you should remember the location first and go there when the time comes." "Okay, Master." Sutingyu explained the situation of this giant island to Dawei and the others, focusing on the giant and the golden bird. Moreover, Sutingyu said very seriously, "If you see these two behemoths, you must stay far away and not be discovered." Next, Sutingyu also followed Dawei and the others to find the key mooncake ingredients. In the mooncake recipe, there are 6 key ingredients that players need to find. Fortunately, there are pictures of them in the recipes, and it is much easier to search according to the pictures. Moreover, the panel can also be authenticated. Because this was a search mission, Sutingyu released all the residents in the stone tablet. First, let them all remember what the ingredients in the picture look like, and then spread out to find them. If you find it, come back and let her know. At this time, the advantage of having more people and more power is revealed. Otherwise, it would be almost impossible for one person to find 6 insignificant flowers and plants in such a huge garden in 3 days. And this must be one of the problems that the dungeon poses to players. Moreover, in the process of searching for ingredients, the giant must not find out that he is secretly destroying his garden. Otherwise, it will definitely arouse the giant's rage and push this dungeon to a higher level of difficulty. Not this one. This looks quite similar, but it's not. I lost, it's not. After finding the wrong ingredients again and again, Sotingu's enthusiasm for the rare flowers and plants in the garden also waned. It's one thing to have pictures, but there are also many flowers and plants that look similar. Apart from pictures, Sotingu could only identify them by hand. From time to time, news comes from Xiaocanhua and the residents. But every time, Sotingu went there in high spirits and full of expectations, but all he got was similar flowers and plants. After searching for it, Sotingu felt hungry, so he took out the food in the plastic bag and ate it in one bite. Not to mention, this giant's food is quite delicious. Suck it. Take another bite. Because he didn't know whether the food was really delicious, Sotingu didn't take out much of it. Each portion was cut off a little bit so that it wouldn't be easy to find. When Sotingu was halfway through eating, another message came from Xiaocanhua. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 988. The little broken flower that ran over jumped, and finally landed firmly at Sotingu's feet. 2 leaves, one on the left and one on the right, gently hugged Sotingu's right leg. Gila. Did you find anything? Sotingu swallowed the food in his mouth, packed the remaining food again, and put it back into the storage ring. Gila. The little broken flower nodded its buds, let go of Sotingu's right leg, and pointed a leaf in one direction. Gila. Under the guidance of little Canhua, Sotingu arrived at a corner of the giant garden. Gila. The leaves of the small broken flowers point in one direction. In that direction, 8 aqua blue flower plants grow. The fresh stems and leaves are swaying in the breeze, and the crystal-like petals are shining like clear glass in the sun. 5 colors splash. Sotingu took out the photo and looked at it more and more like it. However, you still need to use the panel to identify it before you can confirm it. Just as Sotingu was about to take a step forward, the leaves of a small residual flower got tangled in his right leg. Shishikigilug, the little broken flower pointed to the side that seemed to be a 5-color water flower with some excitement. Another leaf and its stem were trembling in waves. Sotingu looked over again, and then he discovered 2 5-meter-long centipedes hovering on the soil near 8 aqua blue flower plants. Because the body color of centipedes is similar to that of soil, Sotingu was mistaken just now. And looking at the way the centipedes are surrounding the flowers, if you want to pick the flowers, you will definitely disturb these 2 centipedes. Now, both centipedes seem to be sleeping, but looking at the aura radiating around them, they feel very untouchable. Sotingu now has more than a dozen small broken flowers and big gray flowers around her. Little Canhua, please pay attention to the situation around you. Little broken flowers, yes. Master, Sci. Big Hui, come with me to meet these 2 centipedes for a while. Dawai, yes. Master. After Sotingu watched the small broken flowers disperse, he took Da Hui to the 8 flower plants. When Sotingu was still more than 10 meters away from Huaji, the 2 centipedes seemed to feel an unusual aura and opened their eyes, locking their sharp gazes on Sotingu. The dozens of motionless and dense centipede legs also moved. The 2 centipedes were wary of the intruder Sotingu. The mouth parts under their heads squirmed and made a hissing sound, as if to intimidate and threaten. Sotingu continued to walk forward. Seeing that Sotingu still hadn't left, the 2 centipedes made an even harsher sound. When Sotingu came within 10 meters, the 2 centipedes suddenly crawled towards her at extremely fast speeds. A meteor stick appeared in Sotingu's hand, and the other end of the stick was pointed at one of the centipedes. The stick body suddenly grew longer, and it directly stabbed one of the centipedes through the body. The centipede now looked like a barbecue being skewered on a wooden skewer. Its fluffy mouthparts kept spitting out some thick white liquid with an unpleasant odor. Seeing this scene, Sutingyu quickly extended the meteor rod to its longest length to prevent the white liquid from spilling on himself. When the other centipede was about to pounce on Sutingyu, De Hui stood in front of Sutingyu. Two large gray claws materialized and blocked the centipede from the front. "You block it for a while, I'll take care of this one first," Sutingyu said to De Hui. Then, Sutingyu took his freshly baked barbecue skewers and started banging them. All of a sudden, all the dozens of centipede legs of that centipede were beaten to pieces. The carapace on the surface also showed signs of being broken, and countless body fluids and blood splashed to many corners on the ground. The centipede that was entangled with De Hui was so angry when he saw the miserable state of his companion that he wanted to pounce and tear Sutingyu apart. However, De Hui still stood in front of Sutingyu conscientiously. Because De Hui's body can become virtual, he can easily spin the centipede around. After Sutingyu finished taking care of the barbecue, he came back to take care of this end. 10 minutes later, the complete bodies of the two centipedes were no longer on the ground, only a pile of scattered black pieces remained. Sutingyu made the meteor rod smaller, then rinsed the surface of the rod with a bottle of water, and finally took it back to the inventory. After dealing with the centipede, Sutingyu reached out and touched an aqua blue flower plant. The next second, the panel pops up. Props: 5-color water splash. Grade: rare. Function: it can be eaten all over the body. It depends on how you eat it. Mixing it with other flowers and plants may have special effects. Whether the copy can be brought out, no. Usage: disposable. Remarks: damn it, wipe your saliva. Sutingyu's eyes lit up. It's really a 5-color splash. After searching for so long, I finally found a key ingredient. Sutingyu took away all the 8 colorful water flowers here. After searching for several more hours, Sutingyu temporarily stopped searching as evening approached, leaving Xiao Kanhua and the residents to continue their efforts. Sutingyu, on the other hand, was going back to the castle to cut some leftovers to fill his stomach. However, when Sutingyu arrived near the castle, he saw many servants gathered at the gate of the castle, making it a mess. Sutingyu did not approach, but directly used the contact machine to ask his temporary chef teammate. "Zhang-san? What's going on?" The in-game nickname of the scene member is Zhang-san. It is simple, easy to remember, catchy, and very seeing. After a while, Zhang-san had a reply: "There is a terrible thing. I went to steal the recipe and was discovered before I even left the kitchen." Sutingyu was surprised. "Can you still steal it?" Zhang-san on the other end of the phone. "This focus seems a bit off." Sutingyu came to his senses instantly and coughed lightly. "This person is too much. If he successfully steals it, other players will not be able to find the mooncake recipe." Zhang-san replied in a dry voice, "The main reason is that this evil thing steals all the time. If he fails to steal, he slaps his butt and leaves. As a result, the security of the entire castle has been greatly increased." Sutingyu: "So are you okay in the castle? Are you okay?" Zhang-san: "It's not bad, but the search for thieves has already begun in the castle. It's a mess. I've got all the common ingredients and condiments for other mooncakes. I'm just waiting for you, Miss Su. I have found the first key ingredient here." Sutingyu also reported his progress. Zhang-san knew that Sutingyu's side was more difficult, so he said with relief, "That's a good start, Miss Su. Please pay attention to safety first." "Okay, you too." Sutingyu cut off contact. At this time, what happened in the giant's kitchen also alarmed the golden bird. "I saw a crowd of servants at the gate of the castle, all kneeling on the ground in fear. After understanding what had happened, the big golden bird flapped its wings and said in a sharp voice, "Find it? I am going to swallow this abominable thief in one gulp." "Yes, Lord Greenland," the servants replied with shaking bodies. Seeing this situation, Sotignu quietly moved away from the castle. After such a fuss, Sotignu thought that it would be better to walk around the castle in the near future and come back after finding all the key ingredients. So Sotignu started looking for other key ingredients in the giant's garden again. This is not. I seem to have found it here." Sotignu took a small kettle and took a shower here and there. After a lot of walking, Sotignu also met other servants in the giant garden. Different from Sotignu's fishing, those servants were conscientious in completing their work. When Sotignu saw those servants, he deliberately turned away from them. It's you, come here." Suddenly, Sotignu was stopped by a servant. Sotignu paused for a moment, with a wave of confusion in his eyes. When he turned to look at the man again, his eyes were full of innocence and confusion. "Is something wrong?" "Come with me, Lord Greenland has an order," the servant said. "Greenland? It seems to be the name of that big golden bird." Sotignu immediately nodded and bowed. Okay. Sotignu followed the servant, but on the way, he saw other servants. When the latter saw the two of them, they immediately hid away as if they had seen a ghost. Some servants who had no time to run were also stopped. The servants who were stopped had expressions of reluctance and fear, but they did not dare to show any disobedience. After a few times, Sotignu became more and more curious. A group of 30 people came to the luxurious birdhouse of the Golden Bird. The birdhouse is also very big, just like a palace. It is located on a towering tree, with golden light everywhere, and a strong aura of explosive wealth blows in your face. There is a swing tied under the big tree, and the big golden bird is swinging leisurely now. At this time, Sotignu saw the golden bird up close. Compared with her fragile and petite body, the golden bird really looked like a giant, as if a gentle breath could blow her away. Moreover, the feathers all over the body of the golden bird are very smooth and shiny. Looking at it, I feel that it should feel very good. Sotignu couldn't help but feel itchy in her hands, and thought to herself, I really want to help the big bird pluck its hair, cool it off, and see if it's that soft. Just when Sotignu was immersed in the beautiful fantasy in her heart, the servant who brought everyone took a few steps forward, spoke in a respectful tone, faced the direction of the golden bird, knelt on his knees, and said, "Honorable and handsome Lord Greenland, the manpower you need has been brought. Please give your orders as you please." The big golden bird glanced at everyone, raised its neck proudly, and said in a sharp and arrogant voice, "Humble reptiles, please listen to me. Your uncle is thirsty now and wants to drink the flower juice squeezed by lark manna, campanula. In addition, I also want to eat the seeds of colorful sunflowers and the ripe fruits of blood cherries." The big golden bird made a lot of requests, and he was very arrogant. The servants below all lowered their heads and listened carefully, not daring to hear a word wrong. Sotignu understood clearly. It turns out that this big bird is greedy and wants to eat flowers and grass. After talking about dozens of kinds of flowers and plants, the big golden bird stopped and said, "That's all for now. It must be delivered to me before sunset. If it is not delivered, you people, you all have to be my dinner tonight." The threat of the golden bird was very effective. As soon as he said his threat, all the dozens of servants trembled. Sotignu glanced to the left, then to the right, and then, without any psychological burden, chose to join them, and also began to shiver. The big golden bird was very satisfied with the servants' fear of it, flapped its wings and flew away gracefully. After the golden bird left, the servant who originally called Sotignu and others stood up first, and then began to assign work to everyone. The task of picking dozens of flowers and plants was assigned to everyone, and they also explained the areas where the flowers and plants were planted, how to pick them, and where to send them. Sutingyu was also assigned to pick 2 kinds of flowers and plants. After the assignment was completed, Sutingyu discovered that the servant had not left a task for him. Moreover, he said in a high-sounding way, "You all have something to eat, and whoever is the last to deliver flowers and plants will be responsible for delivering food to you." Finally, delivering food to the golden bird is obviously a chore. If the golden bird is unhappy, delivering food will really become delivering food. And that servant is naturally bound to become everyone's overseer. Sutingyu called him a good guy in his heart. Seeing the reactions of other servants, they all looked like they dared to be angry but dared not speak. This gesticulating servant seems to have a strong say. Just now, he was able to say a few words to the big golden bird. The other servants are not qualified to communicate with the golden bird at all. So, this is stupid. After Sutingyu got the information about the 2 flowers and plants he was responsible for, he began to search for the stored flowers and plants in the storage ring. Sutingyu was lucky enough to find it. There are both, and the quantity is sufficient. Now, Sutingyu no longer had to waste time looking for it. Sutingyu selectively ignored that the flowers and plants she had were collected with the help of the little residual flowers, not by her herself. Isn't it hers that Xiaokanhua collects? Therefore, the little fairy is lucky and has nothing wrong with her. Although Sutingyu already had those 2 kinds of flowers and plants in her storage ring, she couldn't hand it over so quickly. Otherwise, she would be telling people nakedly, she has a problem, and she secretly took the flowers and plants from the giant's garden. Sutingyu estimated the round-trip time from here to the area where the 2 flowers and plants grew, and chose to hand over the 2 flowers and plants after an hour. In this way, you will not be the last to cross the flower, and you will not arouse suspicion due to premature cross.